Before we begin, a small but important note. The vast majority of people who watch these accounts have not yet subscribed. If what you hear tonight stays with you, if it settles into the quiet spaces of your mind the way these events settled into the lives of those who witnessed them, then consider subscribing. It costs nothing. It changes everything. Now leave a comment. Tell me where you are listening from, and tell me what you think belongs in the sky above your home, because after tonight, you may not be so certain. You ever see something that is not supposed to be there, and your brain just refuses to process it? Not something frightening. Not something dramatic. Just something wrong. Like a word misspelled on a sign you drive past every single day, and one morning you notice it, and suddenly you cannot remember whether the sign has always been wrong or whether you have been wrong your entire life. That quiet, disorienting rupture between what you know and what you are looking at. That is what the line felt like. I am the orchard keeper. I run my family's citrus operation outside a small town in the San Joaquin Valley. 180 acres of Valencia oranges, mostly. I have been doing this since I was 19, when my father's back gave out and he needed someone to take over the day-to-day. That was a long time ago. Long enough that I know every tree on this property. I know which rows flood when the rains come. I know where the ground squirrels nest and which sections the coyotes use as a highway after dark. I know what belongs here, and I know what does not. It was October, middle of harvest season. We had been running the crews hard, picking, sorting, hauling fruit to the packing house before the heat could spoil anything. My business partner, one of my oldest friends, a man I have worked alongside for more years than I care to count, had taken the last load out around 8 in the evening. I stayed behind to check the irrigation system in the North 40. One of the valves had been giving us trouble, a slow leak that threatened to waterlog the root systems if it was not corrected, and I wanted to make sure it held through the night. The air that evening was still. No wind. The kind of quiet you only get in the valley when the highway noise dies down and the birds have already gone to roost. Just the steady tick, tick, tick of the sprinklers and my boots crunching on the dried grass between the rows. The smell of dust and citrus oil, that sharp, clean scent that clings to everything during harvest, saturating your clothes, your skin, the air itself. I was about halfway through the section when I noticed the light was off. Not gone. Not dimmer. Just off, like someone had changed the color temperature on a bulb. The sodium lamps mounted on the equipment shed were casting their usual orange glow, but something about the trees ahead looked different. Flatter, maybe. Less shadow. The depth had been subtracted from the landscape, as if someone had taken a three-dimensional orchard and compressed it into a photograph of itself. I kept walking, telling myself it was fatigue. 16-hour days will do that to you. Mess with your depth perception, make you see things that are not there. The mind invents explanations for what the body already knows is wrong, and the explanations are always more comfortable than the truth. But then I looked up, and I saw the line. It was thin, maybe 6 inches wide, perfectly straight, running east to west across the tops of the trees like a seam stitched into the air itself. Pale blue, the color of a gas flame or one of those ultraviolet sanitizer lights you see in commercial kitchens. It did not flicker. It did not pulse. It just hung there, maybe 15 feet off the ground, stretching from one end of the orchard to the other with the mathematical precision of something that had been measured, calibrated, and placed with absolute intention. No beam. No source. Just the line itself, a filament of impossible light suspended in the October darkness. I stopped walking. My first thought, and I am not exaggerating, was that someone had strung up some kind of rope light as a prank. One of the crew members, maybe, or a neighbor's kid with too much time and not enough supervision. But there were no poles. No wires. And the line did not sag or drape the way a cable would. It was perfectly level, perfectly, geometrically level, as if someone had used a laser to measure it and then forgotten to attach it to anything. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds, just staring. My phone was in my pocket. I should have pulled it out right then, taken a photograph, called my partner. But I did not. I just kept staring, trying to make sense of what I was looking at, trying to force it into a category my mind could accept. Weather phenomenon, optical illusion, equipment malfunction, anything. That is when I noticed the shadows, or rather, the absence of them. The trees beneath the line should have been casting shadows from the line itself, if nothing else. Any light source creates shadows. That is not physics, that is reality. Light hits object. Object blocks light. Shadow forms on the opposite side. It is as fundamental as gravity, as automatic as breathing. But the trees were not casting shadows. The ground beneath the line was the same, even gray, it had been before. No striping. No interference pattern. No evidence that light was striking surfaces and being interrupted by solid matter. It was as if the line existed in a layer of reality that did not interact with the physical world beneath it. Present but uninvolved. Visible but without consequence. Like it was projected. But from where? There was nothing above it. Nothing below it. Nothing beside it. Just the line, hanging in the air with the patience of something that had been there for a very long time and intended to stay. I took a step forward. The line did not move. Another step. Still nothing. I was close now, maybe 20 feet from the nearest tree, directly under the line. The blue glow fell across my upturned face, and I could feel it on my skin. Not warmth, not cold, but a faint electrical prickling, like the static charge you feel when you hold your hand near a television screen. My heart was pounding, but not from fear. Not yet. It was something else. Anticipation, curiosity, the same feeling you get when you are about to open a letter you know is going to change something. The feeling of standing at the edge of a threshold you cannot step back from. I reached for my phone. That is when the sound started. It was not loud. In fact, if the sprinklers had not been off in that section, I probably would not have heard it at all. It was a low hum, almost subsonic, like the noise a big rig makes when it is idling a mile away. But there was no truck, no machinery, no generator running in a neighboring field. Just that low, steady vibration that I could feel more than hear, thrumming through my chest and up into my jaw, settling into the bones of my skull with an intimacy that made my teeth ache. My hand froze on my phone. The line was still there, still blue, still silent and shadowless and completely, fundamentally wrong. And that is when my brain finally caught up with what my gut had been screaming at me for the last minute. Get out. I backed away slowly, not taking my eyes off the line. My boots caught on a sprinkler head and I almost went down, but I caught myself, kept moving. The hum got quieter, or maybe I just could not hear it over the blood rushing in my ears, the hammer of my pulse drowning out every other frequency. When I was far enough away that the line looked thin again, just a faint blue thread in the distance, barely distinguishable from the darkness, I finally pulled out my phone and dialed my partner. He picked up on the second ring. Yeah. Are you still in town? Just leaving the packing house. Why? What's wrong? I did not answer right away. I was still staring at the line, watching to see if it would move, dissolve, do anything that would let me explain it away as a trick of the light or a hallucination brought on by exhaustion. It did not. I need you to come back, I said. Now. He made it back in 18 minutes. I know because I counted every one of them, standing at the edge of the North 40 with my phone held up, trying to get a clear shot of the line. The camera would not focus. Every time I tapped the screen to lock onto the line, the image would blur, refocus, blur again, cycling through states of clarity and confusion as if the phone could not decide what it was looking at. As if the object defied the camera's ability to categorize it as something that existed at a fixed distance in physical space. I tried video. Same result, just a shaky, out-of-focus mess with a vague blue smudge in the background that could have been anything. A reflection. A lens flare. Certainly nothing that would convince anyone who had not been standing where I was standing. By the time his truck pulled up the access road, headlights cutting through the darkness, I had given up on the phone and was just watching. The line had not moved, had not changed. It was still there, humming its low, impossible hum, occupying a space in the world that no object should be able to occupy. He killed the engine and climbed out, already frowning. "What's going on?" I pointed. He looked. And then he froze. Exactly the way I had. "What the hell is that?" "I don't know." He took a few steps forward, squinting into the darkness. Is it a drone? Some kind of laser? No poles. No wires. And look at the shadows." He looked. I saw the moment it clicked for him, the same moment it had clicked for me. His expression shifted from confusion to something else, something tighter, something that lived closer to the bone. "What the hell is that?" he asked again, but this time the question was not rhetorical. It was a plea. "I don't know." We stood there together, both of us staring at the line. The hum was louder now, or maybe I was just more aware of it, more attuned to a frequency I had not known existed an hour ago. It felt like it was resonating inside my ribs, like standing too close to a bass speaker at a concert, except there was no music. Just pressure. Just vibration. Just the steady, patient thrumming of something vast and invisible. He pulled out his phone. "Don't bother," I said. "Mine won't focus on it." He tried anyway. Held the phone up, tapped the screen, swore under his breath. "What the hell?" "I know." "Okay." He lowered the phone. "Okay, let's think about this. There's got to be an explanation. A weather balloon, or a military test, or... Balloons don't hover in a straight line." "I know, but..." "And the military doesn't test anything over civilian farmland without clearing it first. And it's not a laser because lasers don't hum." He stopped. Looked at me. "You hear it too. You don't." I thought I was imagining it. We both looked back at the line. It was still there. The blue glow caught the edges of the nearest orange trees, turning their leaves into something strange and metallic, as if the orchard had been plated in silver. He took a breath. "Okay. New plan. We call someone. Highway patrol, maybe. Or the sheriff. Someone who can. And tell them what? That there's a blue line floating over our orchard. It's better than standing here doing nothing." He had a point. I pulled up the non-emergency number for the Highway Patrol office in the nearest city and hit dial. It rang 4 times before someone picked up. "California Highway Patrol. This is dispatch." "Hi. I manage a citrus operation off a county road east of Highway 99. I'm calling to report an unusual object over my property." There was a pause. "What kind of object, ma'am?" I hesitated. How do you describe something that should not exist? "It's a line of blue light. Horizontal. About 15 feet off the ground. It's been there for about half an hour and it's not moving." Another pause. Longer this time. The kind of pause that tells you the person on the other end is already composing a dismissal. "Ma'am, has anyone on your property been using flares or road markers?" "No. This isn't a flare. It's..." I stopped. Tried again. "Can you send someone out here to take a look? I can file a report and have an officer contact you, but unless there's an immediate safety concern. There is a strange object hovering over my orchard." That sounds like a safety concern to me. "I understand, ma'am. Let me get your information and I'll have someone reach out within 24 hours. 24 hours. I gave her the details, hung up, and turned to my partner. "They're not coming." Great. We stood there for another minute, watching the line. The hum had not changed. The color had not changed. It was just there, occupying space with the serene indifference of something that existed on its own terms, regardless of what we thought about it. He broke the silence. "You know what? Screw it. I'm going in." "What?" "I'm going under it. If it's dangerous, we'll know. If it's not, maybe we can figure out what it actually is." "That's a terrible idea." "You got a better one?" I did not. He started walking toward the line before I could stop him. I followed, my heart hammering again, every instinct I had screaming at me to grab his arm and pull him back. But I did not. Because the curiosity was stronger than the fear. Because standing at the edge of the unknown and refusing to look is its own kind of cowardice. And because I needed to know. We reached the edge of the trees, maybe 10 feet from the nearest point directly under the line. He stopped. Looked up. The blue glow reflected off his face, making him look pale and strange, as if the light were subtracting color from his skin rather than adding it. "You feel that?" he said. "The hum." "No. The air. It's different here." He was right. The temperature had dropped. Not by much, maybe 5 degrees, but enough to notice. The warmth of the October evening had been replaced by something cooler, crisper, charged with a faint electricity that prickled the hair on my forearms. And there was a smell, faint but distinct, like ozone after a lightning strike. Sharp. Metallic. The smell of air that had been split apart and reassembled. He took another step. Nothing happened. Another. Still nothing. He was directly under the line now, craning his neck to look up at it. The blue glow bathed him completely, washing out his features, turning him into a silhouette inside a column of impossible light. "I'm fine," he said. "It's just..." And then his phone rang. We both jumped. He fumbled it out of his pocket, glanced at the screen. "It's the highway patrolman." An old friend of his from high school. A CHP officer stationed in the area. He answered. "Hey, man." "What?" He stopped. I watched his face change, the color draining from it in real time, as if something were pulling the blood from his skin. "Yeah," he said slowly. "Yeah, we're seeing it too." My stomach dropped. "Where are you?" he asked. A pause. "Highway 99. Northbound. Near the exit." Another pause. "Okay. Yeah. No, don't. Just stay there. We'll come to you." He hung up. Looked at me. His face was pale, genuinely pale, the pallor of a man who has just learned that the impossible thing in his backyard is not local. "He says there's a line over the highway. Same thing. Blue. Horizontal. No source. He's got 3 other motorists stopped on the shoulder reporting the same thing." We both looked up at the line above us. It was still there. Still humming. Still wrong. But now I realized it felt different. Not like we were looking at it. Like it was looking back. We made it to Highway 99 in 12 minutes. We did not talk during the drive. What was there to say? Every time I glanced out the passenger window, I could see the line in the distance, running parallel to the road like a glowing seam stitching the sky to the earth. It was wider than I had thought. From the orchard, it had looked thin, maybe 6 inches. But from the highway, with nothing to give it scale, I could see it was easily 2 feet across. Maybe more. And it was not just one line anymore. There were 3. "Jesus!" he muttered. He slowed the truck as we approached the cluster of vehicles pulled onto the shoulder. I counted 4 cars, a semi-trailer, and the patrolman's cruiser, its light bar casting red and blue flashes across the asphalt, the familiar colors of emergency rendered strange and insufficient against the pale blue geometry overhead. A small group of people stood near the guardrail, all of them looking up. Their faces were lit from above and below, the highway lights from beneath, the lines from above, and the combination created an effect that made them look like figures in a Renaissance painting. Witnesses to something sacred. Or something terrible. The two are not always distinguishable. He parked behind the cruiser and we got out. The patrolman saw us immediately. He was a big man, 6'3", former linebacker, but right now he looked small, diminished. He walked over with his face tight, carrying an expression I could not quite read. Not fear, not exactly. More like the disbelief of a man who has spent his entire career enforcing rules and has just discovered that the rules do not apply. "You seeing this?" he said. "We saw one over our orchard," I said. "But not like this. They showed up about 20 minutes ago, he said. Started with one, then two more just appeared. No movement, no sound. Just there. There's sound, my partner said. You just have to get close. The patrolman looked at him. What kind of sound? A hum. Low frequency. You feel it more than hear it. One of the motorists, a woman in her 50s wearing a university hoodie, turned to us. You're saying you've seen these before? Tonight. About an hour ago, I said. Over our property. What are they? Another man asked the same question. Younger, mid-20s, holding his phone up like he was trying to record. Is this a military thing? I don't know, I said. Well, someone has to know, the woman said. Her voice was rising, edging toward the territory where composure gives way to something raw. You can't just have things like this floating over a public highway without someone knowing what they are. The patrolman held up a hand. Ma'am, I've already contacted dispatch. They're reaching out to the nearest naval air station to see if there's any testing happening in the area. And they said no. No scheduled flights, no exercises, nothing. The woman stared at him. So what are we supposed to do? For now, stay calm. Stay off the highway until we know more. Stay calm. The younger man lowered his phone. Dude, there are 3 glowing lines floating over one of the busiest highways in California. How are we supposed to stay calm? He had a point. I looked up at the lines. They were evenly spaced, maybe 50 feet apart, running parallel to the highway for as far as I could see in either direction. The glow was brighter here than it had been over the orchard, more intense, almost painful to look at directly. And the hum was louder. I could feel it in my teeth now, a low throb that seemed to synchronize with my heartbeat, entraining my pulse to a rhythm that was not mine. It made my head feel fuzzy, like I had consumed too much coffee and not enough sleep. My partner stepped closer to the patrolman, lowering his voice. You get anyone else reporting these? Yeah. 3 calls so far. One from a truck driver near the next town north. Another from a farmer 10 miles south. Both describing the same thing. Blue lines, no source, no explanation. How far apart? About 15 miles north. 10 miles south. I did the math. If the lines were showing up across a 30-mile stretch of the valley, this was not localized. This was not a prank, not a malfunction, not an isolated anomaly that could be filed and forgotten. This was big. What about the news? I asked. Has anyone called? Someone already did, the patrolman said. But it's late. Unless someone at the station is monitoring the police scanner, it'll be morning before anyone picks it up. Morning, the woman in the hoodie repeated. You're saying we're just supposed to wait here until morning? I'm saying we need to stay calm and let the authorities handle it. You are the authorities. The patrolman did not respond. He did not have an answer, and we all knew it. The lines hung above us in patient silence, and the silence said more than any explanation could have. We are here. We are not leaving. And no one you can call has the power to change that. I turned away from the group and walked toward the guardrail, my partner following. The lines were directly overhead now, close enough that I could see details I had not noticed before. The edges were not sharp. They were slightly blurred, like looking at something through a fogged-up window or through the distortion of heat rising from summer asphalt. And there was a faint shimmer running along the length of each line, a ripple that moved from east to west in slow, steady pulses, like light traveling through a fiber-optic cable, carrying information toward a destination I could not see. What do you think they are? He asked quietly. I have no idea. But you've got a theory. I did. I did not want to say it out loud, because saying it would make it real, and I was not ready for that yet. Saying it would mean crossing a line of my own, the line between the world I had lived in that morning, a world of irrigation valves and harvest schedules and predictable physics, and whatever world existed on the other side of this night. But he knew me too well. "You think it's a UFO," he said. "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." I looked at him. "What else could it be? It's not a plane. It's not a drone. It's not a laser, and it's definitely not a weather balloon. So what does that leave?" "A lot of things," he said. But his voice did not sound convincing. It sounded like a man reciting a script he had stopped believing in. We stood there in silence, watching the lines pulse. Behind us, the group near the cruiser was growing louder, more agitated. Someone was demanding answers. Someone else was crying. A third voice, older, male, was insisting that this was all just a hoax, some kind of viral marketing stunt. I wished I believed that. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting another message from my father or one of the crew leads. Instead, it was a text from an unknown number. "Don't go under the lines." I stared at the screen. The letters glowed in the darkness. 6 words, no punctuation, no sender identification. Just a command delivered with the clinical brevity of someone who had no time for pleasantries. "Who is that?" he asked, looking over my shoulder. "I don't know." Another text came through. "Stay away from the light. Don't let it see you." My hands were shaking. The phone felt heavier than it should have, weighted with the mass of something I did not want to hold. A third text. "They're watching." I looked up at the lines. They pulsed. And for just a second, just a fraction of a second, a sliver of time so brief that rationality would insist I had imagined it, I could have sworn they pulsed in sync with the buzzing of my phone. We left the highway 20 minutes later. The patrolman said he would call if anything changed, but I could tell from his voice that he did not expect it to. The lines were there. They were not moving. And no one had any idea what to do about them. My partner dropped me off at the orchard and headed back to his place. He offered to stay, but I told him I would be fine. I was not sure I believed it, but I needed to be alone. I needed to think. The line over the North 40 was still there when I got back. Still blue. Still humming. Still shadowless and wrong. I did not go near it. I stood at the edge of the property near the equipment shed and just watched. The way you watch a predator from a distance, respecting the space between you and something you do not understand. The text messages had stopped. I tried calling the number back, but it went straight to a generic voicemail. No name, no identification. Just 3 messages from someone who knew what the lines were, or at least knew enough to warn me away from them. "Don't go under the lines. Stay away from the light. They're watching." I thought about the patrolman's report. 3 calls. 3 sightings across a 30-mile stretch. If this was happening here, was it happening elsewhere? Other valleys, other states, other countries? I pulled up my laptop and started searching. It did not take long. The first hit was a forum thread from 2 hours ago, posted by someone in a city 40 miles south. "Strange blue lines over Highway 99. Anyone else seeing this?" 43 comments, all of them variations on the same theme. "Yes. We see them too." The second hit was a social media thread from the nearest major city. Attached was a blurry photo of a blue line stretching across a residential street, hanging above the rooftops like a crack in the sky. The third hit was a live stream titled "Unexplained Phenomenon over California. Live now." I clicked it. The stream was being broadcast from someone's backyard, maybe 10 miles from my property. The host was a man in his 30s, breathless and wide-eyed, holding his phone up to show the sky. And there, clear as day, were the lines. Not 3. 7. "They keep appearing," the man was saying. "Every 10 minutes or so, another one just shows up. I've been watching for the last hour, and it's like they're forming a grid or something. I don't know what this is, but it's not normal. It's definitely not normal." I closed the laptop. My hands were shaking again. 7 lines. If they were forming a grid, that meant they were coordinated. Intentional. Whatever this was, it was not random. It was not weather. It was not military testing that had gone awry. It was organized activity conducted by something with the precision and patience to lay geometry across the sky like a surveyor staking out land. I looked out at the line over my orchard. It pulsed, and this time I was certain it was watching me. I did not sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the line, that pale blue glow hanging in the air like a scar across reality. And every time I opened them, it was still there, visible through my bedroom window, humming its low, impossible hum, patient and unchanging. Around 3 in the morning, I gave up pretending and went outside. The air was colder now, the kind of cold you get in the valley during October, when the temperature drops fast after sunset and the ground radiates back all the heat it soaked up during the day. My breath fogged in front of me as I walked toward the North 40, my phone flashlight cutting a thin beam through the darkness. The line was brighter than it had been earlier. Not by much, but enough to notice. The blue glow had shifted slightly toward white, like a flame burning hotter, concentrating its energy into a narrower spectrum. I stopped about 30 feet away. The same spot where my partner and I had stood before. The hum was louder now, deep and resonant, vibrating through the soles of my boots and up into my spine. It felt like the earth itself was trembling. Not an earthquake, nothing that dramatic. More like a tuning fork pressed against bedrock, sending its frequency through every layer of soil and stone. I pulled out my phone to try recording again. This time, it worked. The camera focused immediately, locking onto the line with perfect clarity. I could see every detail. The blurred edges, the slow westward ripple, even the faint flicker that ran along its length like a pulse carrying data toward some unseen receiver. I hit record. 5 seconds, everything was fine. The video was clean, stable, capturing the line exactly as I saw it. And then the screen went white. Not blank. Not black. White, like someone had shone a flashlight directly into the lens, flooding the sensor with more light than it could process. A solid, featureless rectangle of pure luminescence. I lowered the phone. The line was still there, glowing blue. I looked at the phone screen. Still white. No video interface, no controls, no way to interact with the device. Just light where information should have been. The phone buzzed. A notification appeared at the top of the white screen. New message from unknown. I tapped it. The message was a single word. Stop. My stomach twisted into a knot so tight I could feel it in my throat. I looked up at the line. It pulsed. And then it moved. I need you to understand something. The line did not move the way things normally move. It did not drift or float or glide. It did not accelerate from one position to another through the intervening space. It relocated. One moment it was 15 feet above the orange trees in the North 40. The next moment, literally between one blink and the next, it was 20 feet to the south. Same height. Same orientation. Same blue glow. Just elsewhere. Like a frame had been cut out of a film and the remaining footage spliced together, leaving no trace of the transition. I stood there, phone still clutched in my hand, white screen glowing in the darkness, and tried to process what I had just seen. My brain kept insisting it had not happened. That I had looked away without realizing it. That my eyes had played a trick on me. The explanations came fast and urgent, the mind's immune system attacking an infection of impossibility. But I knew better. The line had moved. And it had done it in response to me trying to record it. The hum changed pitch, dropped lower, became something I could feel in my chest cavity, resonating against my ribs like the bass note of an organ played in a cathedral built for one. The white screen on my phone flickered once, twice, and then snapped back to normal. Camera app still open, still pointed at the line. But the recording was gone. I checked the photo gallery. Nothing. No video file. No corrupted data. No thumbnail. Just nothing. A clean, empty folder where evidence should have been. Like I had never hit record at all. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. Final warning. Go inside. I looked up at the line. It pulsed 3 times in quick succession, brighter, then dimmer, then brighter again. Almost like it was breathing. Almost like it was alive. I went inside. By sunrise, the line over my property was gone. I checked every section of the orchard, walking the rows in the gray pre-dawn light, looking for any trace of what had been there. But there was nothing. No burn marks on the trees. No disturbance in the soil. No dead birds, no confused wildlife, no residual glow. Just normal farmland waking up to another October morning, the trees heavy with fruit, the sprinklers ticking, the air smelling of dust and citrus, as if the night had been a dream and the world had decided to forget it. My partner called at 6:47. "You watching the news?" he asked. "No." "Why?" "Turn it on. Channel 24. I grabbed the remote and switched on the television. The local morning news was showing aerial footage of Highway 99, shot from a helicopter. The banner at the bottom of the screen read, "Mysterious lights over Central Valley, authorities investigating." But the lights were not there anymore. The helicopter camera showed normal highway traffic. Normal farmland. Normal everything. A woman in her 40s with carefully styled hair was interviewing someone from the nearest naval air station. He was insisting, in the careful language of military public relations, that there had been no testing, no exercises, and no equipment malfunction that could explain the previous night's events. "We take all reports seriously," he was saying. "But at this time, we have no evidence of any unusual aerial activity in the region." But dozens of people reported seeing strange lights, the anchor pressed. "Are you saying they were all mistaken?" "I'm saying we have no data to support those reports. No radar contacts, no visual confirmation from any of our aircraft or personnel." The segment cut to pre-recorded interviews with witnesses. I recognized the woman in the university hoodie from the highway. She was describing the lines in vivid detail. The blue glow, the humming sound, the way they had appeared and disappeared without warning. "It was the strangest thing I've ever seen," she said. "And I'm not crazy. There were at least a dozen other people there who saw the same thing." The anchor returned. "Authorities are asking anyone with photo or video evidence to come forward. So far, no clear images have been." I turned off the television. "Did yours disappear too?" my partner asked. "Sometime between 3 a.m. and dawn. I checked the whole property. Nothing. Same here. I drove past the highway on my way to the packing house this morning. Totally clear. It's like it never happened. Except it did happen." "I know. But try telling that to the news." He had a point. Already I could see how this was going to play out. A strange event, widely witnessed but poorly documented. Dismissed as mass hysteria or misidentified aircraft within a week, maybe 2. A footnote. A weird story people told at parties. Except for those of us who had been there, who had felt the hum, who had gotten the messages. "Did you get any weird texts last night?" I asked slowly. "From an unknown number?" A pause. "What kind of texts?" "Warnings. Telling me to stay away from the lines." Another pause. Longer this time. "No. Nothing like that." "Why? How many did you get?" 4. "The last one told me to go inside." "And you did?" "Yeah." "Jesus. You should have called me." "And told you what?" "That I was getting threatening messages from a UFO." He did not have an answer for that. I tried to work that day. I really did. But my head was not in it. I kept looking up at the sky, scanning for any sign of the lines, any shimmer, any faint blue thread against the daylight, any evidence that the night had been real. The crew noticed. One of them asked if I was feeling okay. I told him I was just tired. He did not look convinced. Around noon, I got a call from a number I did not recognize. For a second, my heart jumped. Was it them? But when I answered, it was a woman's voice. Professional. Slightly hurried. "Is this the orchard keeper?" She did not use that phrase, of course. She used my name. But I am not using my name here. Yes. My name is, I'm a professor of astronomy at the State University. I'm calling because I understand you may have witnessed the aerial phenomenon last night over your property. Your business partner contacted the university this morning, asking if anyone in our department could explain what you saw. I specialize in atmospheric optics and rare celestial events, so they forwarded his inquiry to me. And can you explain it? Not over the phone. But I'd like to come out to your property and take some readings if you're willing. I have equipment that can detect electromagnetic anomalies, radiation signatures, that sort of thing. If there's any residual evidence of what happened, I should be able to pick it up. I thought about the texts, the warnings. Stay away from the light. They're watching. Yeah, I said. Okay. When can you come? I'm free this afternoon. Would 3 o'clock work? Sure. Perfect. And one more thing. What? Don't talk to any media outlets until after we've had a chance to collect data. The last thing we need is this turning into a circus before we understand what actually happened. Understood. She hung up. I stood there staring at my phone, feeling the strange double weight of hope and dread. Part of me wanted to believe that the atmospheric scientist would find something, some rational, catalogable explanation that would let me sleep at night. But another part of me, the part that had felt the hum and seen the line move and gotten those messages, that part knew better. Whatever had been over my orchard was not atmospheric optics. It was not a celestial event. It was something else. And it was still out there. The atmospheric scientist arrived at 3:12 in a dusty compact SUV packed with equipment. She was younger than I had expected, mid-30s, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, and the kind of confident, no-nonsense energy you see in people who spend a lot of time in laboratories and not enough in conversations about their feelings. She offered her hand. Thanks for letting me come out. Of course. This is exactly the kind of thing I study, or at least it's adjacent to what I study. I've investigated ball lightning, noctilucent clouds, sprites, all sorts of rare atmospheric phenomena. But I've never heard of anything quite like what you described. You think that's what it was? Atmospheric. I think it's the most likely explanation. But I won't know until I take some readings. I led her out to the North 40, to the spot where the line had been. The sun was still high, casting hard shadows through the rows of orange trees. It looked completely normal, peaceful, even. The kind of scene that makes you question whether anything strange could ever happen in a place this ordinary. She set up her equipment, a tripod with some kind of sensor array, a handheld device that looked like a radiation detector, and a laptop to record the data. She worked quickly, efficiently, talking as she went. The human brain is incredibly good at finding patterns, she said, even when there aren't any. That's why people see faces in clouds or hear voices in white noise. It's also why eyewitness testimony is notoriously unreliable, especially in low-light conditions. There were a dozen people on Highway 99 who saw the same thing, I said. I know. And I'm not saying you didn't see something. I'm just saying our perception of what we see can be influenced by a lot of factors. Stress, fatigue, suggestion. I wasn't stressed or fatigued when I saw it. And no one suggested anything to me. She glanced up from her laptop. I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound dismissive. I just want to make sure we're thorough. I nodded, even though I did not entirely believe her thoroughness would yield what I needed. She took readings for about 20 minutes, moving the sensor array to different spots, checking her handheld device, frowning at the laptop screen with the concentrated displeasure of a scientist whose instruments are refusing to confirm her hypothesis. Finally, she straightened up. Well, nothing, she said. No elevated radiation. No unusual electromagnetic signatures. No trace gases or particulates that would suggest combustion or ionization. Whatever was here, it didn't leave any physical evidence. I felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. Relief because it meant I was not sitting on a radioactive contamination zone. Disappointment because it meant I had no proof. So that's it? It was just nothing. I didn't say that. She closed her laptop. I said it didn't leave physical evidence. But that doesn't mean it wasn't real. There are documented cases of transient luminous events, things like ball lightning or earthquake lights, that appear and disappear without leaving a trace. They're real phenomena. We just don't fully understand them yet. This wasn't ball lightning. I know, but it might be something similar. Something we haven't categorized yet. She started packing up her equipment. I watched her, feeling that familiar frustration rising in my chest, the same frustration I had felt watching the news that morning, listening to the military spokesman insist that nothing had happened. "Can I show you something?" I asked. Of course. I pulled out my phone and opened the message thread from the unknown number. Handed it to her. She read the messages, her expression shifting from academic curiosity to genuine concern. "When did you receive these?" "Last night. The first 3 came while I was on the highway. The last one came while I was standing right here, trying to record the line." "And you have no idea who sent them?" "No. I tried calling back. It goes to a dead voicemail." She handed the phone back, her face troubled. "This changes things. If someone was monitoring your location and sending you warnings, that's not atmospheric optics. That's a person or a group of people. And that means this might not be a natural phenomenon at all." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you might want to contact the police. Because if someone is using some kind of aerial projection technology to stage sightings, and they're tracking witnesses," she trailed off, but I could fill in the rest. "You think this was a hoax?" "I think it's possible. Unlikely, given the scale. But possible." I looked out at the orchard, the neat rows of trees, the irrigation lines, the distant mountains hazy in the afternoon heat. Everything normal. Everything safe. Except it was not. Because somewhere out there, someone or something had warned me away from the lines. And I still did not know why. She left around 5, promising to follow up if she found anything in her data analysis. I thanked her and watched her drive away, dust plumes rising from the access road. I did not call the police. What would I tell them? That I had gotten some weird texts and seen something unexplainable in the sky? They would file a report, maybe, and then nothing would happen. And meanwhile, whoever had sent those messages would know I had talked. They're watching. Instead, I called my partner. "I need you to do something for me. Don't ask questions. Just do it." "Okay." "Go online. Find every report you can about last night. Social media, news sites, forums, anywhere people are talking about what they saw. Screenshot everything. Names, timestamps, locations. Save it all. What's going on? Just do it. Please." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "Okay. I'm on it." I hung up and grabbed my laptop. If the atmospheric scientist was right, if this was some kind of black project or coordinated operation, then there had to be a pattern. A reason. You do not deploy that kind of technology over a 30-mile stretch of one of California's main highways just for amusement. There had to be a purpose. I started with the basics. Searching for variations of Blue Lines California and related terms. Most of the results were about the previous night's event, which was good. It meant the story was still active, still being discussed. But there were older results too. Reports from other places, other times. A forum post from 2019, someone in Arizona describing horizontal blue lights over a stretch of desert highway. A video from 2021 filmed in Nevada, showing what looked like a thin glowing line suspended over a rural town. A news article from 2017, archived on a fringe website, about unexplained aerial phenomena reported by multiple witnesses in Oregon. All of them described the same thing. Blue lines. Horizontal. No source. No explanation. And all of them had been dismissed. weather balloons, atmospheric distortion, mass hallucination. The same reassuring labels applied with the same dismissive efficiency, closing the file before the questions could accumulate enough mass to become undeniable. I kept digging. 3 hours later, I had a list of 17 separate incidents spanning 6 states and 8 years. Not all of them matched exactly. Some described single lines, others multiple, but the core details were consistent enough that I could not write them off as coincidence. And there was something else. Something I almost missed. Every single incident had occurred near a military installation. Arizona, 30 miles from an Air Force base. Nevada, 15 miles from another. Oregon, 20 miles from a fighter training field. And here in California, 40 miles from the Naval Air Station whose spokesman had gone on television that morning to insist that nothing had happened. I sat back, staring at the screen. The atmospheric scientist had asked if this could be a black project, some kind of experimental technology being tested over civilian areas. What if she was right? And what if she was not right enough? My phone buzzed. I grabbed it, expecting another message from my partner with his compiled screenshots. It was not. Unknown number. You're looking in the wrong place. My blood went cold. The room felt smaller suddenly. The walls contracting, the ceiling lowering, as if the house itself had taken a breath and forgotten to exhale. I typed back, "Who is this?" The response came immediately. No delay. No typing indicator. Just words appearing on the screen as if they had always been there, waiting for me to ask. Someone who knows what they are. Then tell me. A pause. The cursor blinked in the empty text field. Not here. Not like this. You need to see for yourself. See what? Another pause. Longer this time. I was about to put the phone down when it buzzed again. Tomorrow night. 11 p.m. County Road 168. Mile marker 23. Come alone. I stared at the message. Every instinct I possessed was screaming that this was a trap, that whoever was sending these texts was luring me somewhere isolated, somewhere dark and empty, somewhere no one would find me if things went wrong. The rational mind constructed scenarios of ambush, of danger, of all the ordinary horrors that human beings inflict upon each other in remote places after dark. But another part of me, the part that had stood under that impossible blue line and felt it watching me, knew I did not have a choice. If I wanted answers, I had to go. The only question was whether the answers were worth the risk. I typed, "How do I know I can trust you?" The response was almost instant. "You don't. But you'll come anyway." They were right. I did not tell my partner about the messages. I did not tell anyone. I just worked through the next day on autopilot, checking irrigation, coordinating with the crews, returning calls from buyers, while my mind churned over what I was about to do. County Road 168 was a narrow strip of asphalt that ran through empty farmland north of town, used mostly by crop dusters and the occasional lost tourist. Mile marker 23 would put me about 2 miles from the nearest house, surrounded by cotton fields and darkness. Perfect place for an ambush. Or perfect place for someone who did not want to be seen. At 10:30, I grabbed my keys and headed out. The air was cool and still, stars sharp overhead, no moon. I drove north on the highway, then cut east onto smaller roads until I hit 168. The headlights carved a tunnel through the night, empty fields stretching out on both sides, broken only by the occasional power line or irrigation pump. No other cars. No lights. Mile marker 23 appeared in my headlights at 10:58. I pulled over and killed the engine. Silence. Absolute, oppressive, the kind of silence that makes you aware of your own breathing as the loudest sound in the world. I sat there with my hands on the steering wheel, waiting. My phone was in the cup holder, screen dark. I had thought about calling my partner, leaving him a voicemail with my location, just in case. But I had not. If whoever sent those messages was watching, and I was sure they were, they would know. 11 o'clock. Nothing. 11:01. Still nothing. I was about to start the engine and leave. to file this under the long list of things I had been foolish enough to consider, when I saw the light. It was not like before. Not a line. Just a faint blue glow rising from the cotton field about 100 yards off the road. Dim at first, then brighter, pulsing slowly with the rhythm of something alive. I got out of the truck. The air smelled like dust and fertilizer and the faint mineral tang of recently turned earth. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked, a single, sharp sound that died as quickly as it was born. The glow pulsed again, brighter this time, and I could see a shape beneath it. A dark silhouette, human-sized, standing in the field. "Hello," I called. No answer. The glow brightened. The silhouette raised one arm, beckoning. Every nerve in my body was screaming at me to get back in the truck and leave. The primitive brain, the one that had kept our species alive through millennia of predators and darkness and things that moved in the night, was firing every alarm it possessed. But I did not leave. I climbed over the low wire fence and started walking toward the light. The ground was uneven, freshly plowed, the soil broken into clods that shifted under my boots. The glow stayed ahead of me, always the same distance away, like a mirage receding at the pace of my approach. And then I was close enough to see. It was not a person. It was a craft. Small, maybe the size of a pickup truck, hovering about 3 feet off the ground. Smooth, metallic, without visible seams or windows or any surface feature that suggested a door, an engine, a cockpit. Just a seamless shell of something that looked like metal but behaved like nothing I had ever touched. The blue glow was coming from underneath, where the craft met the air, casting strange, flat shadows across the furrows that pointed in every direction simultaneously, as if the light did not know which way to fall. The silhouette I had seen was not standing in front of it. It was standing beneath it. And it was not human. I need to be very clear about what I am going to describe, because I know how it sounds. I know what people will think. I know the words that will be used: delusional, attention-seeking, unstable. But I am telling you exactly what I saw, exactly as I saw it, without embellishment and without apology. The figure was tall, maybe 7 feet, and thin in a way that did not look possible. Its proportions were wrong in every dimension. Arms too long, torso too narrow, head slightly too large for the body, as if the skull had been designed to house something more complex than a human brain. It was wearing something dark, like a coverall or a flight suit, but the material did not move like fabric. It looked rigid, segmented, as if it were armor or an exoskeleton rather than clothing. And its face. I could not see its face clearly. The blue glow from the craft washed everything into flat, strange hues that made detail impossible. But I could see enough. Large eyes, too large, occupying territory on the face that eyes should not need. No visible nose. A mouth that might have been a mouth or might have been something else entirely. A slit, an opening, a feature whose purpose I could not determine from the distance. It did not move toward me. It just stood there, watching, with the patience of something that had been watching for a very long time. And then it spoke. Not out loud. Not through the air. Not with sound waves striking my eardrums and being translated into language by my auditory cortex. The words arrived inside my head, fully formed, perfectly clear, bypassing every mechanism of hearing and appearing directly in the place where meaning is processed. You wanted answers. I could not move. Could not speak. My legs had locked up, every muscle in my body rigid with a fear so primal it bypassed rational thought entirely. This was not the fear of something dangerous. This was the fear of something impossible, the fundamental violation of every rule my nervous system had been built to trust. The lines are markers, the voice continued. Observation grids. We monitor. We record. We do not interfere. What? My voice came out as a croak. I tried again. What are you? We are researchers. Your species interests us. Why? Because you are changing rapidly, in ways we have not observed before. The craft pulsed, And suddenly I could see more of them. Dozens. Hundreds. Tiny lights hovering over the valley. Invisible from the ground under normal circumstances, but clear from this vantage point, from this proximity. A network. A grid. Just like the live stream host had said. You attempted to document us, the voice said. This created a risk. We do not allow documentation. The messages. That was you? A necessary precaution. Most humans do not see us. Those who do usually dismiss what they see. But you did not. You investigated. You asked questions. This made you a variable. So what now? You're going to, what? Abduct me. Erase my memory. No. For the first time, I sensed something like emotion in the voice. Not quite amusement, but its distant cousin, the shadow of a reaction from something that did not experience reactions the way I did. You are being warned. The documentation you have collected, the reports, the screenshots, the data, it will be erased. The witnesses will forget. The physical evidence will degrade. In 3 weeks, none of this will be provable. Why? Because we are not ready to be known. And because knowing us would change you in ways you cannot predict. You can't just. We can. We have. Many times. The craft pulsed again, brighter. I could feel the hum now, that same deep resonance I had felt under the line in my orchard. It thrummed through the ground, up through my boots, settling into my bones with the authority of something that had been vibrating at this frequency since before my species learned to walk upright. Go home. Forget what you saw. Live your life. And if I don't, then you will be alone in your knowledge. No one will believe you. No evidence will support you. You will become one of the ones who speak and are not heard. The craft began to rise. The figure beneath it did not move. It simply rose with the craft, as if they were one object, one system, one entity divided into components that only appeared separate. This is not a threat. It is a kindness. We do not wish to harm you, but we will not be exposed. Wait. But it was already gone. The craft shot upward so fast I barely saw it move. One moment it was there, glowing blue in the cotton field, the figure standing beneath it like a sentinel at the threshold of a world I was not permitted to enter. The next moment it was just another star among thousands, indistinguishable from the ancient light of objects that had been burning for billions of years. I stood there alone, surrounded by darkness and the smell of turned earth. The cotton plants rustled in a wind I could not feel, or maybe they were rustling from the displacement of something that had just left the atmosphere. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out. The message thread from the unknown number was gone. Deleted. Every text, every warning, every word, erased as if it had never existed. I checked my photo gallery. The screenshots my partner had sent me, the forum posts, the social media threads, the witness accounts. Empty. Browser history. Empty. Laptop files. Empty. Everything I had collected, everything I had documented, gone. Excised from my devices with the surgical precision of something that understood our technology better than we did. I drove home in a daze. I do not remember the route. I just remember the feeling of inevitability, like a door closing that I would never be able to open again. Like waking from a dream and feeling the details dissolve even as you reach for them, the images retreating into a darkness that swallows everything it touches. 3 weeks later, almost to the day, I was having breakfast with my partner at a diner in town. He mentioned the lines. "You ever think about that weird night?" he asked casually, stirring his coffee. "With the lights." I looked up. "What lights?" He frowned. "You know. The blue things over the highway. We were out there with the patrolman and those other people." Remember. I did not remember. Or rather, I remembered something. A vague sense of unease. A night where something strange had happened. But the details were fuzzy, indistinct, like trying to read text through frosted glass. The shapes of the words were there, but the meaning had been subtracted. "I think you're thinking of someone else," I said. No, He stopped, shook his head. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's weird. I could have sworn. He trailed off, staring at his plate. We finished breakfast in silence. Later, driving back to the orchard, I passed mile marker 23, on County Road 168. I did not slow down, did not even think about it. But somewhere deep in my mind, buried under layers of forgetting, beneath the sediment of 3 weeks of normalcy, a voice whispered, "They're still watching." And I knew, without understanding why, without being able to explain it, without any evidence that would satisfy a skeptic or a scientist or even myself, that it was true. You ever notice something that should not be there, and your brain just refuses to process it? Like when you see a word spelled wrong on a sign you pass every day, and suddenly you cannot remember if you are the one who has been wrong this whole time. That is not what this was. This was something else entirely. I am the long-haul driver. I have been driving trucks for 16 years. Long-haul, mostly agricultural freight, up and down the Central Valley. Produce, nuts, grapes, cotton bales. I know every mile of Highway 99 from the southern edge to the northern border. I know where the potholes are, which rest stops have decent coffee, where the highway patrol likes to hide with their radar guns. I know what belongs on this highway. And what I saw that night in late September did not belong anywhere. It was about 11:45 at night, at least, that is what my watch said. I was hauling a load of almonds from a warehouse outside the southern terminus up to a processing plant in the city to the north. Light load, good weather, empty roads, the kind of run where you can let your mind drift, listen to a podcast, just eat up the miles. I was passing through one of the lonelier stretches between 2 small towns. No civilization. Just farmland on both sides, cotton fields, mostly, already harvested, leaving nothing but bare earth and stubble. The moon was up, about 3/4 full, giving everything that flat gray look. My headlights were on high beam. No other traffic for the last 20 minutes. And then, about a 1/4 mile ahead, I saw it. At first, I thought it was another truck. Broke down, maybe, with its hazards on. But the light was not flashing. It was steady. And it was not the right color. Too white, too bright. Not the amber of hazard lights or the red of tail lights. Something else. Something that did not belong in the vocabulary of road illumination. I eased off the accelerator. Not worried yet, just cautious. Could be a disabled vehicle. Could be highway maintenance, though I had not seen any construction signs. The light got brighter as I approached. That is when I realized it was not on the shoulder. It was in the middle of the road. Both lanes. Northbound side. Right in my path. I hit the brakes, not hard, I had plenty of stopping distance, and downshifted. The engine growled as we decelerated. I was still doing maybe 40 when I got close enough to really see what I was looking at. It was a sphere, maybe 6 feet in diameter, hovering about 3 feet off the asphalt. Perfectly round, glowing with a white-blue light that was intense but somehow did not hurt to look at, as if the light had been engineered to be visible without being aggressive, bright without being blinding. No visible surface features, no seams, no markings. Just smooth, luminous, and absolutely motionless. I brought the truck to a complete stop about 50 yards away. Engine still running. Headlights illuminating the thing. It did not react. It just hung there, hovering above the pavement with the casual indifference of an object that had every right to be exactly where it was. I sat there, hands on the wheel, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. My first thought was a drone. Some kind of agricultural monitoring equipment. But it was too big. And drones make noise. This thing was completely silent. Weather balloon, wrong shape, and why would it be hovering right on the highway? My second thought was that I should call this in. Highway patrol needed to know there was an obstruction on 99. So I reached for my CB radio. Keyed the mic. Breaker 19. This is northbound 99. Mile marker 187. Anyone copy? Static. I adjusted the squelch. Tried again. Any units in the area? This is northbound 99, mile marker 187. Reporting a road obstruction. That is when my engine died. Just cut out. No sputter. No warning. Like someone had flipped a switch. The headlights stayed on, they ran off the battery, but everything else went dark. Dash lights. CB radio. The LED strips I had running along the cab interior. All dead. The silence hit me like a physical weight. When you drive a semi, you get used to the noise, the engine drone, the air conditioning, the road vibration. You stop noticing it until it is gone. And when it is gone, the silence is enormous. Cavernous. The silence of a cathedral built from emptiness. I tried the ignition. Nothing. Not even a click. The sphere was still there, glowing in my headlights. Absolutely motionless. And now that the engine noise was gone, I realized I could hear something else. A hum. Very faint. Very low. Like the sound a power transformer makes, but deeper. Far deeper. As if the frequency had been pushed below the threshold of hearing into the territory where sound becomes sensation. I could not tell if it was coming from the sphere or from everywhere at once. I grabbed my phone from the cup holder. No signal, of course. Out here, in the gaps between towns, cell coverage was spotty at best. But I had had 2 bars just 5 minutes ago. Now, nothing. Not even searching. The phone had stopped looking, as if it had concluded there was nothing left to find. I tried opening the camera app anyway, thinking I could at least document this even if I could not call anyone. The app opened, but the screen showed nothing but black, like the lens was covered. I turned the phone around, checked. The lens was clear. But the camera simply would not work. The sensor that was designed to capture light was refusing to acknowledge that light existed. The hum got a little louder. I looked up at the sphere. It was closer. Not moving. I had not seen it move, but it was definitely closer than it had been. Maybe 30 yards now instead of 50. Still hovering in the middle of the road. Still perfectly still. Still absolutely silent except for that low hum that was more vibration than sound, more pressure than frequency. My heart was pounding now. Not panic. Not yet, but something approaching it. The kind of fear that comes from seeing something that breaks the rules. Something that should not be possible. Something that exists in defiance of every law of physics you were taught to trust. I reached for the door handle. The dome light did not come on when I opened the door. Battery must have died too, which did not make sense. I had just replaced it 3 months ago. But nothing about this made sense. Nothing about this night belonged in the world I had woken up in that morning. The September air hit me when I stepped down from the cab. Still warm, but cooling fast, that valley cold that comes on after sunset, dropping from 90 degrees to 60 in a matter of hours. I could smell dust and diesel fuel and, very faintly, something else. Something sharp, almost metallic. Like ozone after a lightning strike. The same smell the orchard keeper had described, though I did not know that yet. The sphere was 40 feet away now. I was sure of it. I had looked away for maybe 10 seconds and it had moved closer, or relocated somehow, without me seeing it happen. As if distance were a suggestion it could accept or refuse at will. Hey! I shouted at it. What are you? My voice sounded flat. Dead in the empty air. No echo off the asphalt or the dark fields. Just my words dropping into silence and being swallowed. The sphere did not respond. Did not move. Did not do anything. But the hum got louder. I could feel it now, not just hear it. A vibration in my chest, in my jaw, in my teeth. Like standing next to a speaker at a concert, but without the music. Just the bass. Just the resonance moving through my bones like something searching for a frequency that matched. I backed toward the truck. Slowly. Not taking my eyes off the thing. It was 30 feet away now. still motionless, still glowing. And I realized something that made my skin crawl with a cold that had nothing to do with the temperature. It was not casting a shadow. My truck was. The big rig sitting there with its headlights on cast a long black shadow across the road behind it, the sharp-edged silhouette of 18 wheels and 40 tons of steel. But the sphere, which was glowing bright enough to illuminate the entire area, cast nothing. The asphalt beneath it was the same even gray as the asphalt around it. No dark spot. No distortion. Nothing. Light without shadow. Presence without consequence. An object that existed in the world but refused to interact with it on the world's terms. That is when I heard the engine. Not my truck, something else, coming from the south, back the way I had come. Headlights appeared on the horizon, maybe a mile back. Another vehicle heading north, heading right toward us. Relief flooded through me, warm and immediate, loosening the tension in my shoulders, unclenching the fist my right hand had become without my noticing. I was not alone anymore. Someone else would see this. Someone else could confirm I was not losing my mind. I stepped out into the road and started waving my arms. The vehicle got closer. I could tell from the height and spacing of the headlights that it was something big, another semi, maybe, or a tow truck. The sphere did not move. Just hung there, glowing, humming, completely indifferent to the approaching vehicle. "Come on," I muttered. "See it. Please see it." The headlights got brighter. I could hear the engine now, a deep diesel rumble. Definitely a big truck. And then, maybe 100 yards from the sphere, the engine cut out. The headlights stayed on, just like mine had. But the vehicle, I could see now it was a heavy-duty tow truck, coasted to a stop right behind my rig. The driver's door opened. A man climbed out, silhouetted against his own headlights. Big guy. Work shirt. Jeans. He looked at his truck. Looked at my truck. And then looked past both of us to the sphere. He froze. "You seeing this?" I called out. He did not answer right away. Just stared at the sphere the same way I had been staring at it, with the slack-jawed incomprehension of a man whose reality has just been punctured. Finally, "What the hell is that?" "I don't know. My engine died when I got close to it." "Mine too." He walked toward me, moving slowly, carefully. I run the towing service in town." "Long-haul driver. You got a phone that works?" "Tried it already. Dead. No signal, and the camera won't turn on." We stood together on the highway, two complete strangers united by the impossible thing glowing in front of us. The sphere was 20 feet away now. "It's getting closer," he said. "I know. How is it doing that? I haven't seen it move." "Neither have I." The hum was very loud now. I could feel it in my molars, making them ache. He grimaced, pressing a hand to his jaw. "You feel that?" he asked. "Yeah." "What is it?" "Some kind of weapon." "I don't know." The sphere pulsed, just once, a quick brightening, then back to its normal intensity. The hum dropped in pitch, became almost subsonic, and then, between one blink and the next, it was 15 feet away. "Jesus Christ!" the tow operator breathed. I wanted to run. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to get back in the truck or just bolt across the fields, get as far from this thing as possible. But I could not move. It was not paralysis, not exactly. More like gravity, like the sphere was exerting some kind of pull on me. Not physical, but mental. Like my legs had forgotten how to receive signals from my brain. He seemed to be experiencing the same thing. Standing rigid, fists clenched at his sides, staring at the sphere with the helpless intensity of a man caught in a current he cannot swim against. "I can't move," he said. Voice tight. "Me neither." The sphere pulsed again, brighter this time. The hum rose to a pitch that made my ears ring. And then it spoke. Not with a voice. Not with sound. Information was transmitted directly into my head, bypassing my ears completely, arriving as fully formed concepts in the part of my brain where understanding lives before language can reach it. It felt like memory, like suddenly remembering something I had always known but had forgotten. Except the memory was not mine. The message was simple. 3 concepts, planted with absolute clarity. Observe. Do not interfere. Record. That was it. And then the presence was gone, not the sphere, but the intelligence behind it. The feeling that something was actively communicating with me evaporated, leaving behind the hollow echo of contact. I could move again. The tow operator staggered backward, almost falling. Did you hear that? I heard it. What the hell was that? I did not have an answer. The sphere was 10 feet away now, close enough that I could see details I had not noticed before. The surface was not smooth. It was textured, covered in tiny geometric patterns that shifted and rearranged themselves like a living puzzle, a surface that was never the same twice. And there was something inside it. A dark core, barely visible through the glow. Roughly spherical, about the size of a basketball. The heart of whatever this thing was, dense and opaque and utterly unknowable. We need to go, he said. Right now. We need to leave. Our trucks won't start. Then we walk. Run. I don't care. We can't stay here. He was right. Whatever this thing was, whatever it wanted, staying near it was a bad idea. I could feel it in my gut. That primal recognition of danger that evolution hardwires into your brain, the signal that says you are in the presence of something that does not operate by your rules. But even as I thought it, I knew we were not going anywhere easily. The sphere was directly between us and any possible escape route. Highway 99 stretched north and south in a straight line, and the fields on either side were dark, endless, and empty. If we ran into those fields, we would be running blind. And something told me the sphere could follow. Okay, I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. Let's think. Our engines died when we got close. Maybe if we back away far enough, they'll restart. The sphere is between us and the trucks. So we go around it, give it a wide berth, stay on the shoulder. He looked at me like I had suggested we juggle chainsaws. But he did not have a better idea. We started moving. Slowly, carefully, edging toward the shoulder of the highway. The sphere did not react, just hung there, glowing, humming, doing its impossible hovering act. We made it to the shoulder. Dry grass crunched under our boots. The air smelled different here, earth and dead plants and something chemical, fertilizer residue from the cotton fields. We started walking, giving the sphere as much distance as we could while staying on solid ground. 50 feet. 60. 70. The hum got quieter. I think it's working, he said. We kept walking, angling back toward the trucks. The sphere was off to our left now, still motionless, still glowing. But we were past it. We had made it. I broke into a jog. He followed. We reached my rig first and I grabbed the door handle, hauled myself into the cab, turned the key. Nothing. Come on, I muttered. Come on, you bastard. Start. I tried again. Again. Nothing. Not even a click from the starter solenoid. He was trying his truck. Same results. I could hear him swearing, loud enough to carry across the distance between our vehicles, the profanity of a man confronting a machine that has betrayed him. I climbed back down, looked at the sphere. It had moved again, not toward us, toward the center of the road, repositioning itself exactly where it had been when I had first seen it. Like it had just reset itself to its starting position. Like the entire encounter was a program and someone had pressed restart. This isn't happening, he said, walking back toward me. This can't be happening. Trucks don't just die for no reason. Electrical systems don't just fail simultaneously. And glowing balls of light don't float in the middle of Highway 99. But they are, I said. So what do we do? I pulled out my phone again. Still no signal. But the time display caught my attention. 11:47 p.m. I had been looking at my watch when I first saw the sphere. It had said 11:45. That was at least 15, maybe 20 minutes ago. But my phone was saying only 2 minutes had passed. "What time do you have?" I asked. He checked his watch, frowned. 11:51. Why? My phone says 11:47. So my phone updates automatically. It syncs with cell towers. It's never wrong. He looked at his watch, then at my phone, then back at the sphere. That doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. We stood there, both of us, trying to process what was happening. Time discrepancies, engine failures, communication blackouts. This was not just weird. This was systematic, controlled, like we were being studied. Observe. Do not interfere. Record. It said something about recording, I said slowly. What if it's documenting us? The same way we were trying to document it. You're saying that thing is taking data? I'm saying it's not random. It shut down our engines. It shut down our phones. It moved closer to us, got a better look, and then backed off. That's not natural phenomenon behavior. That's research. He stared at the sphere. So what? We're lab rats now. We just wait here until it's done collecting whatever data it wants. I did not have an answer. The sphere pulsed again. 3 times. Rapid succession. The hum shifted, not louder, but different. Higher pitched, with a rhythmic quality, almost like Morse code but more complex. A language of light and frequency that I could feel but could not decode. And then the headlights went out. Both trucks. Simultaneously. Just clicked off, plunging us into darkness. The only light now was the sphere itself and the moon overhead, and the moon felt smaller than it should have, diminished, as if the sphere's glow was pulling luminance from everything around it. I don't like this, he said. Neither do I. My eyes adjusted slowly. The moonlight helped, but not much. The sphere's glow provided some illumination, but it was diffuse, shadowless. Everything looked flat and strange. The highway, the fields, the trucks, all of it reduced to 2 dimensions. The sphere began to move. Not toward us, upward. Rising slowly, steadily, until it was about 20 feet off the ground. And as it rose, other lights appeared. Small ones at first, pinpoints, like stars scattered across the sky. But they were too low to be stars. And they were moving, drifting in patterns, intersecting and separating, forming shapes that almost made sense but did not quite resolve into anything recognizable. Like watching someone write in a language you have never seen, the letters familiar but the words impossible. Jesus, he whispered. How many are there? I counted. Lost count. At least 30. Maybe more. All of them glowing with that same white-blue light. All of them moving in slow, deliberate patterns across the dark sky. A choreography of light conducted by something that understood geometry the way we understand breathing. They're all over the place, I said. This whole area. The main sphere, the one that had been on the road, began to rise faster. The smaller lights converged on it, forming a loose cluster, and then the entire group started moving north. Slowly at first, then faster, until they were just bright points in the distance. And then they were gone. The silence that followed was absolute. No hum, no vibration, no sense of presence. Just me and the tow operator standing on a dark highway next to 2 dead trucks, staring at an empty sky. I tried my door. It opened. I climbed in, turned the key. The engine roared to life. Dash lights flickered on. The CB crackled with static, then cleared. The headlights blazed, washing the highway in familiar yellow light. Everything was normal. Everything was exactly as it should be, as if the last 20 minutes had been a glitch in reality that had just been corrected. His truck started too. I could hear it from where I sat. That deep diesel rumble that meant power, reliability, normalcy. He walked over to my window. His face was pale in the dashboard glow. "What just happened?" he asked. I checked my phone. Signal bars were back. Full strength. The time display read 11:53 p.m. I checked my watch. 12:14 a.m. "I don't know," I said. "But we lost time. A lot of it." He checked his own devices. His phone matched mine, 11:53. But his watch said 12:09. 21 minutes on my watch. 6 on my phone. As if time had fractured along 2 tracks and each device had followed a different one. "That's not possible," he said. "Watches don't just skip ahead. Everything about tonight is impossible." He pulled out his phone. "I'm calling this in. Highway Patrol needs to know. If those things are interfering with vehicles on a public highway." Wait. Wait for what? We just had a close encounter with whatever the hell that was. People need to know. Know what? We don't have any proof. No photos, no video. Just our word. And our word is that a glowing ball shut down our trucks and made time skip forward. You think they're going to believe that? He stopped. Phone halfway to his ear. "So we just don't report it?" I'm saying think about what we sound like. Think about what happens when we call this in. He lowered the phone slowly. "They'll think we're crazy. Or drunk. Or high. Or making up a story to cover up something else. But it happened. We both saw it. I know. And I believe you. And you believe me. But will anyone else?" He did not answer. We stood there for a minute, engines idling, headlights pushing back the darkness. The highway looked normal now. Just asphalt and painted lines and the distant glow of civilization on the horizon. "I need to get back," he said finally. "My wife, my kids, they're probably worried. I left the shop 2 hours ago to help a stranded motorist." "That was supposed to be you, by the way. Dispatch said someone called in a breakdown at mile marker 187. "That wasn't me. I didn't call anyone. My radio died before I got the chance." "Then who called it in?" We looked at each other. Neither of us had an answer. "Go home," I said. "Check on your family. Make sure they're okay." "What about you?" "I'm finishing this run. If I don't deliver this load by 6 a.m., I lose the contract." "You're going to keep driving? After what just happened? What else am I going to do? Pull over and wait for them to come back?" He shook his head. "You're braver than me. Or dumber. Hard to say." He almost smiled. "Then, if anyone asks you about this, if someone official wants to know what happened here tonight, you'll tell them the truth, right? You won't let them make it seem like nothing happened." "I'll tell them the truth," I said. "If they ask." "Good. Because I have a feeling they will." He walked back to his tow truck, climbed in, and pulled out. I watched his taillights disappear south, back toward town, back toward civilization and light and normal life. And then I was alone on Highway 99, surrounded by dark fields and darker sky, with nothing but the highway stretching north and the memory of something impossible. I made it to the processing plant by 4:30 in the morning. Unloaded the almonds. Got my paperwork signed. Headed to a truck stop for coffee. I was running on fumes, had not slept since before the drive, and the adrenaline crash was hitting hard. The truck stop was one of those 24-hour places off the highway, all flickering fluorescent lights and tired faces. I parked in the trucker section, grabbed my wallet, and headed inside. The coffee was terrible, but it was hot and caffeinated, and that was all that mattered. I sat in a booth near the window, watching the eastern sky start to lighten, and tried to make sense of what had happened. Time discrepancy, 21 minutes on my watch, 6 on my phone. Engine failure, total electrical shutdown, no apparent cause. The sphere, physical object, definitely real, witnessed by 2 people. The lights in the sky, at least 30, coordinated movement. The message, observe. Do not interfere. Record. None of it added up. Or rather, it added up to something I did not want to admit was possible. I pulled out my phone and started searching. The results came in thousands: blurry photos, wild claims, conspiracy theories, but some of them were different. Sober, detailed accounts from people who had no reason to lie. Truckers, mostly. A few highway patrol officers. Farmers who had seen things over their fields. And a lot of them mentioned the same details: white blue lights, engine failures, time discrepancies. One forum post caught my attention. Dated 3 months ago. Drove the northern route last night. Around 1 a.m., my rig just died. Total shutdown. There was a light on the road ahead. Couldn't tell what it was. By the time I got the engine restarted, my clock was off by almost half an hour. Anyone else experienced this? 23 replies. Most of them similar stories. Different dates, different locations, but the same core experience. We were not alone. Whatever the tow operator and I had seen, other people had seen it too, or things like it. And judging by the timestamps on these posts, it had been happening for years. I was about to dig deeper when someone slid into the booth across from me. I looked up. A woman, mid-40s, CHP uniform, badge red with a name I will not use here. She had tired eyes and the kind of expression that said she had seen things that did not make it into official reports. "Long-haul driver?" she asked, using my real name. My stomach dropped. Yeah, that's me. Highway patrol. I need to ask you some questions about an incident last night on Highway 99 near mile marker 187. How did you know I was here? We've been monitoring CB chatter. You checked in with dispatch when you arrived at the processing plant. I've been waiting for you. I didn't report anything. I know, but someone else did. She pulled out a small notebook. Around midnight last night, we received a call about 2 vehicles stopped on Highway 99 at mile marker 187. When our unit arrived at 12:30, both vehicles were gone. No debris, no skid marks, nothing to indicate an accident or breakdown. But the officer noted that the asphalt in that section looked strange. Strange how? Discolored, like it had been exposed to intense heat, but in a perfect circle, about 8 feet in diameter. Right in the middle of the northbound lane. I said nothing. The coffee in my cup had stopped steaming. The patrol investigator leaned forward. I'm going to be straight with you. I'm not here to bust you for anything. I'm not writing tickets. I just want to know what you saw last night. Why? Because this is the 4th time in 6 months we've gotten a report from that section of highway. Same details every time. Vehicles stopped, engines dead. And by the time we get there, everyone's gone. Maybe people are just having car trouble and getting picked up. Maybe. But car trouble doesn't leave burn marks on the road. And it doesn't explain the other things. What other things? She glanced around the truck stop, making sure no one was listening. Then, quietly, the time gaps, the electrical failures, the lights. I stared at her. You know about the lights? I've seen them. Once, 2 years ago, patrolling near a small town south of here. White-blue glow hovering over a cotton field. I called it in. By the time backup arrived, it was gone. My dashboard camera footage was corrupted. Nothing but static. So, what are they? I don't know. No one does. Or if they do, they're not telling us. She tapped her notebook. But I keep a log. Unofficial. Just dates, times, locations, patterns. What kind of patterns? They appear in clusters. 3 to 5 sightings in the same area over the course of a week. Then nothing for months. Always late at night. Always in isolated areas. And always the same effects: engine trouble, missing time, communication blackouts. You think they're coordinated. I think they're deliberate. Whatever these things are, they're not random. She slid a business card across the table. It had her name, rank, and a phone number written in pen on the back. If you see anything else, call me. Not dispatch. Me directly. Why? Because dispatch will file it and forget it. But I won't. I'm collecting data. And someday, when we have enough, maybe we'll be able to do something about it. Do what? She stood up. Figure out what they want. She left before I could ask anything else. I sat there staring at her card, trying to process the implications. The highway patrol knew. At least one officer knew, and she was keeping records. Which meant this was bigger than just me and the tow operator. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Hello. Long-haul driver? A man's voice. Unfamiliar. Who's this? You don't need to know my name. You just need to listen. Last night, you encountered something on Highway 99. Something you're probably still trying to understand. How did you? We monitor these events. We've been monitoring them for a long time. And we need you to do something for us. Who's we? That's not important. What's important is that you don't talk about what you saw. Not to the media, not to friends, not to anyone except the people who were there with you. Why not? Because talking about it makes it real. Makes it official. And once it's official, things get complicated for everyone. Are you threatening me? No. We're protecting you, and we're protecting the investigation. What investigation? The one that's been ongoing for the last 30 years. The one that's trying to figure out what these things are and what they want. And we're close. Closer than we've ever been. But if this goes public, if people start panicking, we lose our chance. So what am I supposed to do? Just pretend it didn't happen. You can tell your story to the right people, like the patrol officer. She's one of ours. But keep it off social media. Keep it out of the news. Can you do that? I thought about the tow operator, about his wife and kids, about the other drivers who had reported similar experiences. What about the other guy, the tow truck driver? We'll talk to him. We talk to everyone. And what if I don't want to keep quiet? What if I think people deserve to know? There was a pause. Then you're a smart man. You've seen how these stories get treated. You've seen what happens to people who come forward with this kind of claim. They're ridiculed, dismissed. Their careers suffer. Their lives get difficult. So you're saying if I talk, you'll make my life hell? No. We're saying life will make your life hell. We're just trying to spare you that. The line went dead. I sat there, phone in hand, coffee going cold. 2 conversations. 2 very different messages. The patrol investigator wanted information. The anonymous caller wanted silence. And me, I just wanted to get home, sleep for 12 hours, and wake up in a world where glowing spheres and missing time were not things I had to think about. But I had a feeling that world was gone. I drove home that morning in a daze. Did not remember most of the route. Just the big landmarks, merging onto the interstate, exiting near the eastern suburbs, pulling into my driveway as the sun hit the horizon like a blade splitting open the belly of the night. My wife was in the kitchen when I came in. She took one look at me and knew something was wrong. She had always been able to read me like that. The set of my jaw, the way I held my shoulders, the particular quality of silence I carried when the weight of something unsaid was pressing down on my chest. Rough night? She asked. You could say that. The load give you trouble? The load was fine. It was the drive. I told her everything. The sphere. The tow operator. The lights. The time discrepancy. The patrol investigator. The phone call. All of it. Every detail. Every impossible moment. laid out on the kitchen table between us like evidence in a trial where the verdict had already been decided but nobody wanted to say it aloud. She listened without interrupting. That was one of the things I loved about her. The ability to hold space for something without immediately trying to fill it with reassurance or dismissal. She just listened. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Finally, "Do you believe it was real?" "Yes." "Not a hallucination? Not some kind of atmospheric phenomenon?" I talked to another person. He saw the same thing. "That's not a hallucination." "Okay." She poured herself coffee, sat down across from me. "So what are you going to do?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to go public, post about it, tell the story, warn people. But the other part knows how that sounds." "Yeah." "What did the tow operator say? Have you talked to him since last night?" "No. But I should." I pulled out the patrol investigator's card, called the number she had given me. She answered on the third ring. "It's the long-haul driver. I need the tow operator's contact info." "Why?" "Because I want to make sure he's okay. And I want to know if anyone else has talked to him." A pause. Then, "Give me a minute." She came back 2 minutes later with a phone number. I thanked her and hung up. Dialed the tow operator. It rang 5 times before he answered. He sounded exhausted. "Yeah. It's the trucker from last night." "Oh. Hey." A pause. "You doing okay?" "Physically, yeah. Mentally, I'm not sure." "Same. I keep replaying it in my head, trying to make sense of it." "Did anyone contact you? Highway patrol? Anyone else?" "Yeah. A guy called me this morning. Wouldn't give his name. Said I should keep quiet about what happened." "Did he threaten you?" "Not exactly. But the message was clear. Talk about this, and things get difficult." "Same call I got. So what do we do?" "I don't know. But I don't think we should let them silence us. Whatever's happening out there, people deserve to know. Even if no one believes us, especially if no one believes us, because that just means we have to work harder to prove it." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "What if they come back? The spheres? What if this wasn't a one-time thing? What if they're still out there, watching us?" I thought about the message. Observe. Do not interfere. Record. Then we observe them back, I said. We document everything. We collect evidence. And we find other people who've had the same experience. "How?" "The patrol investigator. She keeps a log. She knows others. If we pool our resources, share our stories, maybe we can piece together what's actually happening." "You really think we can figure this out?" "I don't know. But I know I can't just pretend it didn't happen." "Okay," he said. "I'm in. What's the first step?" "Meet me tomorrow night. Bring whatever you can remember, times, details, anything that seemed important. We'll compare notes. See if there's a pattern." "Where?" "The trucks stop off the highway, just south of the city. You know it." "Yeah." "What time?" 9 p.m. And don't tell anyone where you're going. Not your wife, not your kids. No one." "You think they're listening?" "I think we shouldn't take chances." He agreed, and we hung up. My wife was watching me from across the kitchen, her hands wrapped around her coffee mug like she was holding onto something solid in a world that had started to wobble. "You're really doing this," she said. "I have to. Even if it's dangerous." "It's not dangerous. It's just strange. Strange things can become dangerous real fast." "I know. But if I don't do this, if I just let it go, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what it was. And I can't live like that." She came over, wrapped her arms around me. "Just be careful." "I will." But even as I said it, I was not sure I believed it. Because something told me this was just the beginning. The truck stop was nearly empty when I arrived at 8:45 the next night. Just a handful of rigs in the lot, their drivers either sleeping in their cabs or nursing coffee inside, the nocturnal population of the highway ecosystem, invisible by day, sovereign by night. I parked near the back, away from the lights, and waited. The tow operator showed up at 8:52, driving a personal vehicle this time, a beat-up pickup that had seen better days. He parked next to me, climbed out, looked around like he was checking for surveillance. Quick glances at the roofline, the light poles, the dark spaces between the rigs. "Anyone follow you?" I asked. "I don't think so. But I've been paranoid all day. Keep feeling like someone's watching." "Same." We went inside. Found a booth in the corner where we could see the door and the parking lot. Ordered coffee. The waitress, an older woman with a name tag that read Dolores, barely glanced at us. We were just two more tired men in a place designed for tired men. Once she was gone, he pulled out a notebook. I wrote everything down. Times, details, what I felt, what I saw. Figured it would help. Good thinking. I had my own notes on my phone, less detailed but comprehensive enough. We spent the next hour comparing accounts. The timeline matched almost perfectly. The descriptions of the sphere, the lights, the hum, all identical. But there were small differences. He remembered the sphere being slightly larger than I did. I remembered more lights in the sky. His watch had gained more time than mine. The discrepancies of perception, two witnesses to the same impossible event, each carrying away a slightly different fragment of the truth. "What do you make of the time thing?" he asked. "How does that even work?" "I don't know. But it's consistent across multiple reports. The patrol investigator mentioned it too. Everyone who encounters these things loses time. Lost or skipped." "What do you mean?" "Are we losing time, like we're standing there for 20 minutes but don't remember it? Or is time actually skipping forward somehow?" I had not thought about it that way. I guess that depends on whether you think time is something that can be manipulated. Do you? I don't know. A week ago, I would have said no. Now, I gestured vaguely at the universe beyond the window. Now I'm not sure what's possible. He nodded, flipping through his notes. I found something online. A forum for truckers. There's a whole thread about weird experiences on the highway. Lights, engine failures, missing time. Just like us. I saw that too. Did you reach out to anyone? No. But I was thinking, maybe we should build a network. Find out how common this really is. The patrol investigator might already have that information. Have you talked to her again? Not since yesterday. But I'm planning to. She said she's been logging these incidents for 2 years. If anyone has a clear picture of what's happening, it's her. So what's the theory? What do you think these things are? I had been asking myself that question since the moment the sphere appeared. Honestly, I think they're extraterrestrial. He did not look surprised. You think we got visited by aliens? I think something non-human showed up on that highway, shut down our vehicles, studied us, and left. That's not military tech. That's not weather. That's something else. But why here? Why the Central Valley? I don't know. Maybe because it's isolated. Maybe because of the farmland, lots of open space, low population density. Or maybe, I hesitated. What? Maybe they're monitoring something else. The agriculture, the water table, the environment. And we're just incidental. We're the ones who happen to be driving through when they're doing their work. So we're not the focus. I don't think we are. I think we're just in the way. He considered this. That message, the one that got put in our heads. Observe. Do not interfere. Record. That sounds like instructions for researchers. Exactly. And if they're researching this area, documenting it, That means they've been here before. Probably many times. Which explains why there are so many reports going back years. We sat in silence, both of us processing the implications. If we were right, if these things were some kind of extraterrestrial research team, then the question was not whether they existed. The question was what they wanted, and whether we were in danger. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Look outside. I showed him. He paled. You think it's them? Only one way to find out. We slid out of the booth and walked to the front windows. The parking lot looked normal. Dim lighting, a few trucks, nothing unusual. But then I looked up and saw the lights. 3 of them, hovering about 100 feet above the truck stop. Same white-blue glow as before. Same perfect stillness. They formed a triangle, equidistant from each other, pulsing slowly in sync. A geometry of intention suspended in the night sky. Here we go, he said softly. Other people in the truck stop were starting to notice. A driver near the counter pointed, said something to Dolores. She looked, gasped, put a hand to her mouth. The lights began to move, not toward us, but upward, rising higher into the night sky. And as they rose, more lights appeared. Dozens of them, scattered across the entire visible area, all pulsing, all moving in coordinated patterns. A constellation descending or ascending, it was impossible to tell which. Someone pulled out a phone, started recording. I did the same, holding my phone up to the window. This time, the camera worked. I could see the lights clearly on the screen, bright points of white-blue against the black sky, moving in slow, deliberate formations. I hit record. The video played back perfectly, clear, stable, undeniable. You got it, he said. You actually got it. I checked the file. 3 minutes of footage. Crystal clear. This was evidence. Real, documentable proof that something was happening here. And then my phone screen went white. Just like before. A solid rectangle of light. No interface. No video. Nothing. I tried hitting buttons. Restarting. Anything. Dead. No, I said. No. Come on. He checked his phone. Same thing. White screen. Unresponsive. Outside, the lights began to fade. Not disappearing. Dimming. Like someone turning down a dial. Within 30 seconds, they were gone. Just empty night sky. Stars. Normalcy. My phone came back to life. But when I checked the video file, it was corrupted. Just a black screen with white noise on the audio track. His phone was the same. They deleted it, he said. They waited until we recorded, and then they deleted it. But why let us record at all? Why not just block the cameras like before? Maybe they wanted to see if we would. Maybe that's part of the research. A text appeared on my phone. Last warning. No documentation. No public disclosure. I showed him. He showed me his. Same message. Word for word. What happens if we ignore them? He asked. I don't know. But I'm not sure I want to find out. Dolores came over, her face pale. You boys see that? We saw it, I said. What was it? Drones. Military. We don't know. Well, someone should call the police. That's not normal. That's not safe. Already on it, he lied smoothly. She nodded, went back to the counter, started talking to the other driver. Within minutes, everyone in the truck stop was buzzing, pulling out phones, comparing stories. This was going to be on social media within the hour. Maybe the news by morning. And there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. The patrol investigator called me 10 minutes later. You at the truck stop off the highway? She asked without preamble. Yeah. How did you? Because I just got 3 calls reporting lights over that location. Was it them? Yeah. Did you get footage? I tried. It got corrupted. Of course it did. She sighed. Listen, I'm on my way. Don't leave. I need to talk to everyone who saw this. What's going on? Why are they showing up now, in such a public place? This isn't isolated farmland. This is a truck stop with witnesses. I know, and that scares me. Because up until now, they've been careful, discreet. This is different. Different how? I think they're escalating. I think something changed. She hung up before I could ask what. The patrol investigator arrived 20 minutes later with another unit. They interviewed everyone at the truck stop, drivers, staff, anyone who had seen the lights. Took statements, collected phone numbers, promised to file a report. But I could tell she did not expect anything to come of it. This was procedure, covering bases. The real investigation was happening somewhere else, with people who did not wear uniforms and did not announce themselves. When she was done with the others, she pulled the tow operator and me aside. "Okay," she said quietly. "Cards on the table. I know more than I've been letting on. I'm not just collecting data as a hobby. I'm part of a larger effort, unofficial, underfunded, mostly ignored by the brass. But we've been tracking these things for years." "How many years?" I asked. 10. Maybe longer. The records get fuzzy before the 2000s. But we know they've been here at least that long. Probably longer. And no one's done anything. What can we do? We have no physical evidence. No clear photos or videos that aren't immediately dismissed as hoaxes. And every time we get close to documenting one of these events, something interferes. Tech fails. Witnesses recant. Files get corrupted. "So we're just supposed to accept it," he said. "These things show up, mess with our vehicles, mess with our heads, and we just live with it?" "For now, yes. Until we understand them better. Until we can prove they're real without sounding like lunatics." "What if we can't prove it?" I asked. "Then we keep trying. Because the alternative, doing nothing, pretending it's not happening, that's worse." She handed us each a business card, different from the first one she had given me. This one had a different number and an email address. "This is a secure line. If you see anything else, contact me immediately. And if anyone else contacts you, government, military, anyone claiming to represent an official investigation, I want to know about it." "Why?" "Because there are people who want this buried. And they have resources we don't." "The guy who called me," I said. "He said he was part of an investigation." "Did he identify himself?" "No." "Then he's one of them. The cleaners. They show up after events like this. Make sure witnesses stay quiet. Make sure the story doesn't spread. They're not hostile, exactly," he added. "Just insistent." "What if we don't stay quiet?" he asked. The patrol investigator looked at him seriously. "Then your life gets difficult. Not dangerous, just difficult. You'll find yourself unemployed. Your credibility will be attacked. Your social media will be full of trolls. It's death by 1,000 cuts." "Jesus! I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to prepare you. Because if you really want to pursue this, if you want to be part of the investigation, you need to know what you're getting into." I looked at the tow operator. He looked back at me. "I'm in," he said. "Me too," I said. The patrol investigator nodded. "Good. Then let's get to work." Over the next 3 weeks, we documented everything. Every sighting, every report, every strange experience anyone in the network had. The patrol investigator connected us with other witnesses. Drivers, farmers, a few pilots who had seen things while flying over the valley at night. The pattern became clear. The lights appeared in clusters, mostly between midnight and 3 in the morning. Always in isolated areas. They showed preference for farmland, particularly areas with large-scale agriculture, and they avoided populated zones unless something specific drew them there. Like us. "They're tracking you," the patrol investigator said during one of our meetings. Both of you. Ever since that first encounter, you've been on their radar. How do you know? I asked. Because the frequency of sightings near your locations has tripled. You've seen lights over your route 6 times in 3 weeks. And there have been 4 reports within 5 miles of his shop. That's not coincidence. So what do they want with us? I think you saw too much, got too close, and now they're monitoring you to make sure you don't become a problem. Are we in danger? I don't think so. If they wanted to harm you, they would have already. But I do think you're being studied, just like you studied them. It was a strange feeling, being observed by something non-human, like being a bug under a microscope, except the microscope could think, could make decisions about you, could decide whether you were interesting enough to keep watching or too dangerous to leave alone. But it also meant we had leverage. If they were interested in us, that gave us an opportunity, a chance to communicate, maybe even establish contact. What if we tried to talk to them? I suggested during one meeting. Not just wait for them to appear, but actively try to make contact. How? The patrol investigator asked. We know where they've been. We know when they're most likely to show up. What if we went to one of those locations and just waited? Made ourselves available? That's incredibly risky. Is it? They've had multiple chances to hurt us and haven't. I think they're curious. And maybe if we show we're curious too, they'll respond. The tow operator looked uncertain. You really want to go back out there? After everything? I want answers. Don't you? He was quiet for a long time. Then, yeah, I do. The patrol investigator sighed. If you're going to do this, do it smart. Pick a location that's open but not too isolated. Bring backup, someone who can call for help if things go wrong. And for God's sake, bring a camera that's not a phone. Something physical, with local storage that they can't remotely corrupt. Will you come with us? I asked. I can't. If this goes south and I'm involved, it'll blow back on the whole unit. But I'll monitor from a distance. And I'll have units on standby, just in case. When? The tow operator asked. I thought about it. The moon would be new in 3 days. Darker nights. Better conditions for seeing the lights. This Friday. Midnight. Mile marker 187. Where it started, he said. Where it started, I agreed. Friday night came faster than I expected. The tow operator and I met at the truck stop at 11:30. Went over the plan one more time. We would drive to mile marker 187, park on the shoulder, and wait. No aggressive moves, no attempts to get close, just observation. The patrol investigator was monitoring from a location about 2 miles south, ready to respond if we called. We had walkie-talkies. Old school analog, harder to jam than digital phones. At 11:50, we pulled out. The highway was empty. Just us and the night, and the empty fields rolling past like dark water on either side of a narrow bridge. When we reached mile marker 187, I pulled onto the shoulder. Killed the engine. He parked behind me. We got out, stood between the trucks, and waited. Midnight came and went. Nothing. 12:15. Still nothing. At 12:30 he said, maybe they're not coming. Maybe. But I had a feeling, a prickle at the back of my neck, like static electricity. The air felt different here. Charged. Like the atmosphere itself was holding its breath. At 12:47, the lights appeared. Not on the road this time. Above us. High up, maybe 1,000 feet. 3 of them, in a triangle formation, descending slowly. The geometry precise, deliberate, as if calculated by something that understood spatial relationships the way we understand speech. Here we go, he said softly. The lights got closer. I could see details now, the way they pulsed, the slight shimmer around the edges. And as they descended, I felt that familiar hum start up, resonating through my chest. The vibration that lived beneath hearing, in the place where instinct and dread share a border. They stopped about 50 feet above us, close enough to illuminate the entire area in that pale, shadowless glow. Close enough that I could feel the vibration in my molars. And then, just like before, the message came. Why did you return? I took a breath, focused, tried to send a thought back, not speaking aloud, but directing the concept with as much clarity as I could summon. We want to understand. A pause. The lights pulsed brighter. Understanding requires acceptance. Are you prepared to accept? Accept what? That you are not alone. That you have never been alone. That we have watched your species since before your written history. That we will continue to watch long after you are gone. My mind reeled. Since before written history. That meant thousands of years. Maybe tens of thousands. A presence older than agriculture, older than cities, older than the concept of civilization itself. Why? I thought. Why watch us? Because you are changing rapidly, dangerously, and we do not yet know if you will survive the change. What change? The one you call progress. Technology, industry, population. You are reaching a threshold, a point of no return that every sentient species arrives at eventually. What you do in the next century will determine whether your species endures or collapses. And you're just observing, not helping. We do not interfere. Interference creates dependency. Dependency prevents growth. But you interfered with our trucks, with our phones. We protect the observation. We do not protect you. It was a chilling distinction. The difference between a scientist shielding their equipment and a scientist shielding their subjects. We were not subjects. We were incidental. Obstacles to be managed. What happens if we tell others? If we share what we know? The lights pulsed 3 times. Rapid succession. You will not be believed. Evidence will fail. Witnesses will recant. This has always been the pattern. You make sure of that. We do not need to make sure. Your species does it for us. You dismiss, ridicule, ostracize those who speak truth. We simply allow that process to unfold. I felt a wave of frustration, hot and sharp and helpless. So we're stuck. We can't prove you exist. And even if we try, no one will believe us. Not everyone needs to believe. Only enough. When the time is right. When will the time be right? When you are ready to accept the responsibility that comes with knowing. And then the lights began to rise. Wait. I shouted, out loud this time, my voice cracking against the silence. Don't go. We have more questions. The lights stopped. Held position. One question. Ask wisely. I looked at the tow operator. He nodded, a small, tight movement that carried the weight of everything we had been through. Are we in danger? I asked. From you, or from anyone else who knows about you? The pause was longer this time. Long enough that I could feel my heartbeat marking the seconds, each one heavier than the last. You are in danger from yourselves, as you have always been. We are merely observers. But others are less patient. What others? That is a second question. The lights shot upward so fast they left trails across my vision. Bright lines scored into the darkness like scratches on a negative. Within seconds, they were gone, leaving us alone under a normal night sky. I turned to the tow operator. He was staring up, mouth slightly open. Did that just happen? He asked. Yeah. Did we just have a conversation with? Yeah, I think we did. And they said, what? That there are others. Other groups. That's what it sounded like. We stood there for a long moment, processing the implications of a universe far more crowded and far more complicated than either of us had been prepared to accept. I pulled out my walkie-talkie. You copy. I copy. The patrol investigator's voice crackled back. Did something happen? Yeah. They showed up. We talked to them. You what? We communicated. They answered questions. I'm coming to your location. Don't move. She arrived 15 minutes later, lights flashing. Got out. Looked at both of us like we had lost our minds. Tell me everything, she said. We did. Every word. Every concept. Everything they had communicated. When we finished, she was pale. If what they're saying is true, she said slowly, then this is bigger than we thought. This isn't just aerial phenomena. This is active monitoring of our entire species. And it's been happening for thousands of years, the tow operator added. Which means they've seen everything. Our wars, our progress, our failures. They've been watching it all. The question is, I said, what do we do about it? The patrol investigator looked at the empty sky. We keep doing what we've been doing. We document. We collect evidence. We build the case. And when the time is right, when enough people are ready to listen, we go public. And until then, we live our lives. We drive our routes. We work our jobs. We pretend everything's normal. But we stay vigilant. Because if they're right, if there are others out there who are less patient, we need to be ready. Ready for what? I don't know. But I have a feeling we're going to find out. Some things make sense when you see them. Water flows downhill. Light creates shadows. Reflections need a source. This did not make sense. I am the canal inspector. I work for the regional irrigation district. Have for almost 7 years now. My job is straightforward. I drive around checking water flow, maintaining pumps and gates, making sure the canals that feed thousands of acres of farmland stay operational. It is not glamorous, but it is steady work. And I know these waterways better than I know the streets of my own neighborhood. I know what belongs in a canal and what does not. What I saw that October evening did not belong anywhere. It was about 7:15 in the evening, maybe 20 minutes before full dark. I was doing a routine check on one of the secondary feeders that runs through the agricultural corridor between two small towns. Quiet area. Mostly cotton and alfalfa fields. Hardly any traffic after sunset. The canal itself is maybe 15 feet wide, concrete lined, carrying water from the river system down to the farms south of the main highway. I had parked my truck on the access road and was walking along the canal bank with my tablet, checking flow rates against what the sensors were reporting. Everything looked normal. Steady current. Water level right where it should be. No debris blocking the gates. That is when I saw the reflection. At first, I thought it was the moon. But the moon was not up yet. I could see the sky, still that deep blue-gray of late twilight, stars just starting to appear. No moon. No clouds, either. The reflection was about 30 feet ahead of me. Perfectly still on the water surface. Circular. Maybe 3 feet across. Glowing with a pale blue light, not bright enough to illuminate the surrounding water, just there. Like someone had painted a circle of light onto the canal. I stopped walking. The water was moving. I could see the current, the slight ripples, but the reflection was not. It stayed in one spot. Not drifting with the flow. Not distorting with the water's movement. Just fixed in place. Perfectly round. Perfectly still. My first thought was that it had to be a light source somewhere above. A drone, maybe, hovering over the canal, or someone shining a spotlight from one of the nearby fields. But when I looked up, there was nothing. Just empty sky. No aircraft. No lights. Nothing that could be creating that reflection. I walked closer. Slowly. Keeping my eyes on the water. The reflection did not move. Did not flicker. The blue glow was constant, unwavering, like it was coming from inside the water itself rather than reflecting off it. When I got within about 10 feet, I could see details I had not noticed before. The edges of the circle were not quite smooth. They had a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer, like heat waves rising off hot asphalt. And the color was not uniform. It was mostly pale blue, but there were darker streaks running through it, patterns that shifted very slowly, like oil on water. I pulled out my phone and took a picture. The camera focused perfectly. I could see the reflection clearly on the screen. I hit the shutter button, checked the photo. It was there, clear as day. A circle of blue light on dark water, exactly as I was seeing it with my own eyes. That should have been reassuring. But instead, it made me more uneasy. Because if the camera could see it, that meant it was real. Not a trick of the light. Not an optical illusion. Something was actually there. I looked up again, scanning the sky more carefully. Still nothing. No stars bright enough to create that kind of reflection. No planets visible at this hour. Definitely no aircraft. I called my supervisor. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. "Hey, it's me. I'm at the secondary feeder, about a mile south of the main crossing. I'm seeing something weird in the water, some kind of light or reflection. It's not moving with the current. Can you give me a call back when you get this?" I hung up, looked back at the reflection. Still there. Still motionless. Still glowing that impossible blue. I decided to test something. I had a high-powered flashlight in my truck. We all carry them for night inspections. I jogged back, grabbed it, and returned to the canal. The reflection was still in the same spot. I turned on the flashlight and aimed it directly at the reflection, flooding the area with white light. The reflection did not disappear. It should have. When you shine a light on a reflection, you either overwhelm it with your own light source or you see whatever is creating the reflection more clearly. But this just stayed. The white beam from my flashlight lit up the water surface, showed me every ripple and bit of debris floating past, but the blue reflection remained, clearly visible, completely unaffected by the direct light I was shining on it. That is when I heard the vehicle, coming from the north along the access road. Headlights appeared maybe half a mile away. I felt a strange sense of relief. Someone else was here. I was not alone with this impossible thing. The vehicle got closer. I could tell from the shape it was one of our district trucks. It pulled up behind mine and stopped, engine idling for a moment before shutting off. A woman climbed out, the compliance officer. She worked for the county environmental compliance office but coordinated a lot with our district on water quality issues. I had worked with her a handful of times. She was sharp, no nonsense, the kind of person who dealt in facts and data, not speculation. "That you?" she called out. "Yeah." She walked toward me, carrying a tablet and what looked like a testing kit. I got a weird alert from one of the monitors downstream. pH reading spiked for about 30 seconds, then normalized. "You seeing anything unusual up here?" I pointed at the water. "Define unusual." She came up next to me, looked where I was pointing, and stopped. "What is that?" she asked quietly. "I don't know. I've been trying to figure that out for the last 10 minutes. Is it a reflection? That's what it looks like. But I can't find the source." She pulled out her own phone, took a picture, checked it. "It's showing up on camera." "I know. Then it's real." "I know." We stood there together, both of us staring at the impossible circle of blue light floating motionless on moving water. "Should be drifting," she said. "Water's flowing at what, 2 feet per second?" "About that. So it should have moved at least 100 feet downstream since you first saw it." "Should have. Hasn't." She walked closer to the canal edge, knelt down. "Shine your light on it again." I did. The white beam hit the water, illuminated the reflection. The blue circle stayed visible, distinct, unaffected. "That's not possible," she said. "If there's no light source above, there can't be a reflection. And if there is a light source, Your flashlight should overpower it, or at least change how it looks. This is breaking physics. I know. She stood up, looked at her tablet. Let me check the sensor data. She tapped the screen a few times, frowned. That's weird. What? The flow meter about 50 yards downstream. It's showing normal flow rate, normal water level, but there's a gap in the data. What kind of gap? 6 seconds. Like the sensor just stopped recording for 6 seconds, then picked back up exactly where it left off. My stomach dropped. When? Checked the timestamp. 7:16. About 15 minutes ago. That's when I first saw the reflection. She looked at me, then back at the water. I think we need to call this in. Call in what? A weird reflection in a canal. A phenomenon that's causing sensor malfunctions and defying basic physics. Yeah, we need to report this. She pulled out her phone. Started to dial. That is when the reflection changed. It did not move. Did not get brighter or dimmer. It just split. Like watching a cell divide under a microscope. The circle elongated, pinched in the middle, and separated into 2 distinct circles. Both the same size. Both glowing the same blue. Both perfectly stationary despite the flowing water. Jesus! She whispered. She lowered her phone without completing the call. The 2 circles stayed separated for maybe 5 seconds. Then they started moving, not drifting with the current. Moving deliberately. Sliding across the water surface like they were on rails. One went upstream. One went downstream. Both maintaining the same distance from the bank. We watched them until they were about 50 feet apart. Then they stopped. And then, simultaneously, they each split again. Now there were 4. This isn't happening, she said. But her voice was shaking. The 4 reflections held their positions for a moment. Then, all at once, they started to pulse. Bright. Dim. Bright. Dim. In perfect synchronization. A heartbeat made of light. And that is when I noticed something else. The sound had changed. The canal always makes noise, water flowing over concrete, the occasional splash when debris goes over a drop gate. But now there was something underneath that. A very low hum, subsonic. I could feel it more than hear it. A vibration that seemed to come from the water itself. You hear that? I asked. Yeah. The 4 reflections pulsed faster. The hum got louder, deeper. I could feel it in my chest now, resonating with my heartbeat in a way that felt invasive, like something tuning itself to my frequency. She grabbed my arm. Look up. I looked. The sky above the canal was wrong. I do not know how else to describe it. The stars were there. The twilight was fading into night. Everything looked normal. But there was a section, maybe 20 feet across, directly above where the reflections had first appeared, where something was different. The air looked thicker there, denser, like looking through water, or through old glass that distorts what is behind it. And as I watched, that section began to glow, the same pale blue as the reflections. But this was not reflecting anything. This was a source, a light coming from something above the water, something I could almost, but not quite, see. I think we should back away, I said carefully. Yeah. We took a step back. Then, another. The 4 reflections stopped pulsing and began moving again, this time all heading toward each other. They met in the center, merged back into a single circle, and then the reflection rose out of the water. I need you to understand what I mean when I say it rose out of the water. The reflection did not project upward like a beam of light. It did not float like a balloon. It separated from the water surface, maintaining its circular shape, and moved vertically upward about 3 feet while remaining perfectly horizontal. It looked like someone had cut a glowing blue disk out of reality and was now lifting it through the air. Her grip on my arm tightened. What the hell is that? I don't know. The disc hovered there, 3 feet above the water, perfectly still. The distortion in the air above it was more visible now, a wavering shimmer extending upward into the darkening sky. And through that distortion, I could almost see something. A shape. Massive. Hovering maybe 100 feet up. Almost see it, but not quite. Like it was just on the edge of visibility, refusing to fully resolve. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out without taking my eyes off the disc. Text from my supervisor. Everything okay out there? I stared at the message. Then at the glowing disc floating above the canal. Then back at my phone. How do you answer that question honestly when the honest answer would end your career? Check your GPS, she said quietly. What? Your GPS check what time it says. I opened the GPS app. It showed my location accurately, right where we were standing on the access road. But the timestamp was wrong. 7:19 p.m. I looked at my watch. 7:34 p.m. My GPS says 7:19, I told her. Mine too. But it's 7:34. 15-minute gap. Not a gap. We're living through it right now. But the GPS isn't recording it. Or can't record it. The disc began to rotate. Slowly. Like a wheel turning in water. As it rotated, the patterns of dark streaks I had noticed earlier became more pronounced. They were not random. They formed shapes, geometric patterns, almost like circuit boards or crop circles. Precise. Deliberate. The language of something that thought in mathematics. It's artificial, she said. Whatever that is, someone made it. Or something. We need to document this. Photos, video, everything. She pulled out her phone. Started recording. I did the same, holding my phone up to capture the disc, the distortion above it, the whole impossible scene. For maybe 30 seconds, the cameras worked fine. I could see the disc clearly on my screen, rotating slowly, patterns shifting across its surface. And then both our phones went dark. Not off, the screens were still on, but they showed nothing but black. Like the lenses were covered. I turned my phone around. Checked. The lens was clear. But the camera app showed only darkness. Mine too, she said. I'm not getting anything. The disc stopped rotating. The hum got louder. More intense. I could feel it vibrating through my boots, through the ground, like standing near a large generator that powered something too vast to comprehend. And then something happened that I still cannot fully explain. The disc pulsed once. Very bright. And in that pulse, I saw everything. I saw the shape above us. Really saw it. Crystal clear, for one fraction of 1 second. It was massive. Maybe 60 feet across. Hovering silently above the canal. Smooth. Metallic. Covered in panels that shifted and adjusted like living skin. No lights. No windows. No visible means of propulsion. Just there, occupying space, impossibly huge, impossibly quiet. And I saw others. More of them. Scattered across the sky, spread out over the canal system. Not just here. Dozens of them, maybe more, positioned at regular intervals for miles in every direction. All hovering. All motionless. All doing whatever they were doing in perfect coordination. The pulse faded. My normal vision returned. The craft above us was invisible again, just a suggestion in the distorted air. But I had seen it. We had both seen it. I saw it, she said. Her voice was shaking. I saw all of them. How many? I don't know. 20. 30. What are they doing? I did not have an answer. The disc began to descend, moving back toward the water surface. It touched the water, merged with it, became a reflection again, still glowing, still motionless. But back where it started. And then it faded. The blue light dimmed more, and finally disappeared completely. The water looked normal, just dark current flowing south, carrying irrigation runoff toward the fields downstream. The hum stopped. The distortion in the air cleared. Everything was quiet. The canal was just a canal again. Concrete and water, and the slow machinery of agriculture continuing its ancient work. We stood there, phones in our hands, staring at empty water. "Did that just happen?" she asked. "Yeah." "Did we just see multiple craft?" "Yeah." "And they were what? Taking water samples?" "I don't know." She looked at her phone. The camera was working again. She took a picture of the canal. Just normal water. Nothing unusual. "We have no proof," she said. "No photos, no video. Just our word." "The GPS data," I said. "That's proof." "The time gap. A 6-second gap could be a glitch. A 15-minute discrepancy." She pulled up her GPS log. Started scrolling. "Look at this." I leaned over to see her screen. The GPS track showed our location throughout the evening, a steady line along the canal access road. But there was a break in the line. Not a gap. A loop. At 7:19 p.m., the GPS showed us standing in one spot. Then, inexplicably, it showed us moving. Fast, impossibly fast, in a straight line about half a mile north. Holding position there for exactly 6 seconds. Then moving back to our original location at the same impossible speed. "That's not possible," I said. "We didn't move. We were standing right here the whole time." "I know. But that's what the GPS recorded. Like it couldn't track us here, so it placed us somewhere else." I checked my own GPS log. Same thing. A bizarre track showing impossible movement during the exact time we had been watching the disk and the craft above it. "This is evidence," she said. "It's not video. It's not photos. But it's data. Hard data that shows something anomalous happened here." "Will anyone believe it?" "I don't know. But we have to try." She pulled up her contacts. Started to make a call. Then stopped. "Who do we even call? Police? The district office? Who handles?" "I have no idea." My phone rang. My uncle, the retired superintendent. I answered. "Hey, where are you right now?" His voice was urgent, tight in a way I had not heard since the night my grandmother had been hospitalized. "The secondary feeder, just south of the main crossing." "Why? Have you seen anything unusual?" My heart sank. "What kind of unusual?" "Lights. Over the water. I just got a call from a farmer near the southern edge. He says there's something hovering over the canal, something glowing blue. And I got another call from someone near the junction reporting the same thing. Different locations, but both on canal system property." "What time did they see them?" I asked. "Starting about 20 minutes ago." "Are you seeing anything?" I looked at the compliance officer. She was listening, her face pale in the last light of evening. "We saw something," I said carefully. "About 20 minutes ago. But it's gone now." "Describe it." "Blue light. Circular. Hovering over the water. And there was something above it. Something big." There was a long pause. Then, "I'm coming out there. Don't leave. Don't talk to anyone until I get there. You understand?" "What's going on?" "I'll explain when I get there. Just stay put." He hung up. I looked at the compliance officer. "My uncle's coming. He says there have been other reports. Multiple locations." "How many?" "At least 2. But if there were as many of those things as we saw during that pulse, there could be dozens of reports." We walked back to our trucks, both of us checking the sky constantly, waiting for the blue glow to return. The canal looked normal, just water, concrete, the dark fields beyond. Like nothing had happened. Like the world had erased its own impossibility and resumed pretending. But my GPS still showed that impossible track. And when I checked the district's sensor network on my tablet, I saw the data gaps, dozens of them. Every sensor along a 30-mile stretch of canal system had experienced 6-second interruptions, all at the exact same time, 7:19 p.m., when we had been standing here watching something impossible. The retired superintendent arrived 40 minutes later in his personal truck. He had retired from the irrigation district 3 years ago, but he still kept tabs on the system, still knew everyone, still had access to most of the data networks. He got out and walked over to us with a tablet in hand. He looked old, suddenly, older than I had seen him look before. Tired and worried and something else. Frightened, maybe. "Show me where you saw it," he said without preamble. I led him to the spot on the canal bank. She followed. The water looked completely normal now, flowing steadily south, reflecting the stars that had appeared overhead. "It was right here," I said, pointing. "A blue reflection. Perfectly circular. Not moving with the current. Then it split into 4, merged back into 1, then rose out of the water." "And above it?" he asked. "Something huge. We could barely see it, like it was almost invisible. But during one bright pulse, we saw it clearly. And we saw others. Lots of them." He nodded slowly, like this confirmed something he had already suspected. "How long did the sighting last?" "Maybe 15, 20 minutes. But our GPS data is wrong. It's showing a 15-minute gap, plus this weird track, like we moved half a mile north and back." "Not just yours." He held up his tablet. "Every GPS-enabled device in the district fleet is showing anomalies. Trucks, monitoring equipment, everything. All between 7:19 and 7:34. And the pattern is consistent. 6-second data gaps, impossible movement tracks, position errors." "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means whatever those things were, they were affecting GPS satellites, or scrambling the signals, or doing something that made it impossible for the satellites to track positions accurately." "Has this happened before?" I asked. The retired superintendent looked at me for a long moment. Then, "Yes. 3 times in the last 8 months. Different locations, but always over water. Canals, reservoirs, rivers. Always the same pattern, blue lights, sensor anomalies, GPS errors. And always the same response from authorities." "What response?" "Nothing. No investigation, no follow-up. Just a note in the logs and instructions to mark it as equipment malfunction." "But it's not equipment malfunction," she said. "This is systematic. Multiple witnesses, consistent descriptions, hard data showing coordinated anomalies." "I know. But nobody wants to say it out loud." "Say what?" "That something non-human is monitoring our water systems. Has been for months. Maybe longer. And we have no idea why." We stood there in silence, all 3 of us, looking at the dark water. "What do we do?" I asked finally. The retired superintendent sighed. "We document everything. Photos, GPS logs, sensor data, witness statements. We build a record that can't be dismissed. And we find others who've seen these things." "How many others are there?" "More than you'd think. I've been keeping an unofficial list. Farmers, water district employees, a couple of highway patrol officers. People who've seen things over the waterways and were afraid to report them because they knew how it would sound." "Can we talk to them?" she asked. "Some of them. The ones who are willing. But you need to understand something. If you pursue this, if you start asking questions and making noise, your lives are going to get complicated. People will think you're crazy. Your employers might start questioning your judgment. And if there's an official effort to keep this quiet, you might get pressure to drop it." "What kind of pressure?" I asked. "The subtle kind. Reassignments, performance reviews, vague warnings. Nothing you can point to and say definitively that you're being silenced. Just enough to make continuing difficult." "Have you experienced that?" she asked. Why do you think I retired early? That hit me harder than I expected. The retired superintendent had always been the most dedicated person I knew. The fact that he had walked away because of this, because the weight of knowing had become heavier than the weight of working. What about the public? I asked. Can we go to the media? You can try, but without clear video or photos, most outlets won't touch it. And the ones that will are the sensationalist sites that'll make you sound like a conspiracy theorist. That's the trap. The phenomenon is real, but any attempt to report it makes you look unreliable. So we're stuck. Not stuck, just careful. We document. We connect with other witnesses. We build a case over time. And eventually, there will be an incident that can't be dismissed, something with too many witnesses, too much evidence, too public to ignore. And when that happens, we'll be ready. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Thank you for not interfering. Observation protocols require minimal disruption. Your cooperation is noted. I showed it to the retired superintendent and the compliance officer. Both of them stared at the message. Did you give anyone this number? He asked. No. It's my personal cell. How would they even? His phone buzzed. Then hers. Same message. Word for word. They're communicating with us, she said. Directly. Or warning us, he said. Making sure we know they're aware of us. I typed back, what are you observing? The response came within seconds. Water quality, chemical composition, biological content, agricultural impact, your species resource management, standard environmental survey. Why? Research, documentation, verification of predictive models regarding species sustainability. Who are you? Observers. We do not interfere. We only record. But you're interfering with GPS, with our equipment. Necessary protective measure. Direct observation by your technology would complicate research parameters. We minimize our presence in your detection systems. I looked at the retired superintendent. Are you seeing this? Yeah. This can't be real. And yet it is. I typed. How long have you been observing? Variable time scale. This region, approximately 14 of your years. Your species, much longer. Why water systems specifically? Water is indicator of systemic health. Chemical signatures reveal agricultural practices, industrial impact, resource allocation efficiency. Water systems are predictive of species survival probability. And what's our probability? A longer pause this time. Then, uncertain. You are at transition point. Next 50 to 75 years will determine outcome. We document both possibilities. What possibilities? Sustainable adaptation or collapse. You are the 47th species we have monitored at similar transition points. 23 have survived. 24 have not. I stared at the message. The casual way it stated those numbers, like our entire civilization was just another data point in a research project. 47 species. 23 survived. 24 collapsed. And we were number 47, standing on the knife's edge, being watched by something that had seen this play out before. Many times before. What can we do? I typed. Continue. Make choices. We will observe. We do not influence outcomes. Then why tell us any of this? You asked. Direct inquiry warrants response. This communication will not continue. Resume normal activities. Your observation tonight was accidental but acceptable. Wait. But no more messages came. The three of us stood there, phones in hand, staring at a conversation with something non-human that had just casually informed us that our species might not make it another century. Well, the retired superintendent said finally. That's new. We did not sleep much that night. The retired superintendent, the compliance officer, and I ended up at a 24-hour diner, sitting in a back booth with our phones, tablets, and printouts of GPS data spread across the table. The waitress kept refilling our coffee and giving us concerned looks, probably wondering what kind of crisis had 3 Water District people working this late. If she only knew. "Okay," she said, pulling up a map on her tablet. "Let's think about this systematically. We have confirmed sightings at 3 locations tonight. Here at the secondary feeder, 1 near the southern edge, 1 near the junction. All on canal property. All around the same time. 4 locations," the retired superintendent corrected. "I just got a text from a friend who works at the lake bed reclamation project. He saw lights over the collection basin around 7:20. "Same time as us," I said. "Same 15-minute window." "Right. So if we plot these locations," she marked the points on her map, "they're all connected to the river canal system. And they're spaced almost exactly 7 miles apart." I looked at the pattern she had created. 4 points, evenly distributed, forming a rough line following the canal network. "That's not random," I said. "No. It's a survey grid. If you were systematically sampling water from this system, this is exactly how you'd space your collection points. Maximum coverage, minimal redundancy." "So they're not just observing," he said. "They're actively collecting data. Water samples, maybe. Or detailed chemical analysis. But why be visible at all?" I asked. "If they can make themselves almost invisible, if they can scramble our GPS and block our cameras, why let us see the reflections in the water?" "Maybe they can't help it," she suggested. "Maybe that blue glow is a byproduct of whatever technology they're using. Like exhaust from an engine. Not intentional, just unavoidable. Or maybe they don't care if we see," he said. "Think about it. They told us directly, minimal disruption, but they're not hiding. They're just making it difficult to document. That suggests they're confident we can't do anything about it, even if we know they're here." That was an unsettling thought. My phone buzzed. Another text, but this one had a sender name. The Patrol Investigator. The message read, "I understand you had an unusual encounter tonight near the secondary feeder. I'd like to talk to you about it. This is an unofficial inquiry." I showed the message to the retired superintendent. He frowned. "I know that name. She's been asking questions about aerial phenomena for a couple years now. Some of the guys at the district have talked to her." "Is she legitimate?" she asked. "As far as I know. She keeps a low profile. Doesn't make a big deal about it. But she's been building a database of sightings." I texted back, "How did you get my number?" "Your supervisor. He got a call about your location inquiry earlier and mentioned it to dispatch. Word travels. Can we meet tomorrow?" "Absolutely. The casino coffee shop off the main highway. 10 a.m. I'll be there." The meeting with the patrol investigator changed everything. She arrived carrying a leather portfolio and the kind of alert, intelligent expression that suggested she did not miss much. She laid out a map of the Central Valley covered in dozens of markers, each one a reported sighting. Most of them clustered around rivers, canals, and reservoirs. 83 confirmed reports, she said. Probably twice that many unreported. People see these things and don't say anything because they think no one will believe them. She connected us with her network, an encrypted group chat with more than 30 people. Farmers, water district employees, scientists, pilots. All of them had seen things. All of them had been afraid to speak. And in that group chat, on that first night I joined, a message appeared from someone in the network. Saw 3 lights over the aqueduct near the southern marshes last night. 7:20 p.m. Blue, circular, stationary. GPS went crazy. Anyone else? Dozens of replies. Everyone had seen something. Different locations, but all the same time. All part of the same coordinated survey. 3 weeks after my encounter at the canal, things started to feel normal again. or as normal as they could feel when you knew there were invisible craft hovering over the water systems every few nights, collecting data on human civilization's slow-motion crisis. I went back to work, checked flow rates, maintained equipment, filed my reports. She continued her environmental monitoring. The retired superintendent kept his informal database, and the patrol investigators group chat grew to more than 50 members, all of us sharing observations, trying to piece together what was happening. The lights appeared regularly now. Not every night, but often enough that we could almost predict them. They showed up in clusters, always over water, always in that same blue-white glow. Most sightings lasted 15 to 20 minutes. GPS systems went haywire, cameras malfunctioned, and anyone close enough reported the same low-frequency hum, that bone-deep vibration that felt like standing next to something impossibly large and powerful. But there were no more text messages, no more direct communication. Whatever intelligence was behind the lights had said its piece and gone back to silent observation. Until the night everything changed. It was mid-November, about 9 o'clock. I was home, off duty, watching a basketball game on television. My phone buzzed with a notification from the group chat. Message from the compliance officer. Something's different tonight. Multiple reports of lights, but they're not moving. Just holding position. And they're brighter. I opened the chat. Dozens of messages were pouring in. Lights over the dam. At least 6 of them. Not moving. Same near the southern section. They're just hovering. Been there for 20 minutes. Lake bed. 8 lights. Formation pattern. Anyone else getting a weird feeling? Like pressure in your head? My phone rang. The retired superintendent. You seeing the chat? He asked. Yeah. What's going on? I don't know. But this is different. The pattern's wrong. They're not conducting their usual survey. This looks like staging. Staging? Like they're preparing for something. That's what worries me. The patrol investigator is organizing a meet-up point. She wants witnesses to gather so we can pool observations in real time. You available? Where? The old pump station off the Junction Canal. It's isolated enough that we won't draw attention, but central enough that we can monitor multiple sighting locations. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I grabbed my equipment, flashlight, tablet, GPS tracker, camera, and headed out. The drive took me through empty farmland, dark fields broken only by the occasional distant light from a farmhouse. The sky was clear, stars bright, moon about half full, and there, on the horizon, I could see them. The lights. Not just a few, dozens, maybe more, scattered across the entire visible area, all holding stationary positions, all glowing with that characteristic blue-white light. It looked like a constellation had descended to Earth. The pump station was an old concrete building, decommissioned 5 years ago, surrounded by chain-link fence and overgrown with weeds. But the access road was still passable, and when I arrived, there were already half a dozen vehicles parked there. The compliance officer, the retired superintendent, the patrol investigator, and several others I recognized from the group chat. Farmers, water district employees, a woman who taught physics at the state university. Everyone was standing in a loose circle, looking up. Glad you made it, the patrol investigator called out. We're trying to count them. Best estimate so far is 43 visible lights. But there could be more beyond the horizon. What are they doing? I asked. Nothing. Just holding position. They've been like this for almost 40 minutes now. That's longer than any previous sighting. GPS? I asked. Completely unreliable. Everyone's showing different locations. Impossible movement tracks. But here's what's interesting. The errors are synchronized. We're all experiencing the same anomalies at the same time, just with different specific values. Like they're not trying to hide anymore, the compliance officer said. like they want us to know something's happening. One of the farmers, an older man I did not recognize, pointed at the sky. "Look, they're moving." He was right. The lights were descending. All of them, simultaneously lowering from their positions, coming down from what I estimated was about 1,000 feet to maybe 500. Still too high to see the craft clearly, but low enough that we could make out the distortion patterns around each light. And as they descended, the hum started, louder than I had ever heard it. Not painful, but so deep and powerful that I could feel it in my entire body. My vision blurred slightly from the vibration. She grabbed my arm for support. "What are they doing?" she whispered. The lights reached their new altitude and held position. And then, one by one, they began to pulse. Not randomly. In a sequence. The northernmost light pulsed 3 times, then the next one south, then the next, creating a wave of light that traveled across the entire visible array. "They're signaling," the patrol investigator said. "Each pulse is a coordinate point. They're showing us the full extent of their survey grid." The wave of pulses reached the southern horizon and stopped. Then it reversed, traveling back north. Then east to west. Then west to east, creating a map in light, defining the boundaries of whatever they were studying. And I realized what I was looking at. "It's the entire Central Valley," I said. "The whole watershed, from the mountains to the valley floor. They're not just studying one canal system. They're studying the entire regional water system." "Jesus!" the retired superintendent breathed. "That's thousands of square miles. Millions of acre-feet of water. Hundreds of thousands of people." The lights pulsed again, all at once. 3 times. Bright. Brighter. Brightest. And then they began to rise. Slowly at first, then faster. Within 30 seconds, they were back at their original altitude. Within a minute, they were higher than before, still visible, but distant now, fading toward the edge of visibility. My phone buzzed. Everyone's phones buzzed simultaneously. Message from an unknown number. "Survey complete. Final data collection initiated. Results will inform recommendations." I looked around. Everyone was reading the same message. The patrol investigator typed back, "Recommendations to who?" The response came immediately. "To councils that determine intervention parameters. Your species' trajectory has been documented. Assessment is underway." What assessment? Viability analysis. Probability of sustainable development versus probability of systemic collapse. Results will determine whether your species qualifies for indirect support or remains under observation-only protocols. What does that mean? What's indirect support? Subtle adjustments to reduce collapse probability. Technological suggestions delivered through inspiration. Strategic information provided to key individuals. Modification of minor variables to improve outcome likelihood. You'd help us? If assessment indicates sufficient probability of positive outcome. Resource allocation for intervention support is limited. Priority given to species demonstrating highest survival potential. And if we don't qualify? Continued observation until outcome resolution. Documentation for academic purposes. No intervention. I stared at the message. We were being graded. Evaluated on whether we were worth saving. How long until you decide? I typed. Analysis requires 3 to 5 of your months. Decision will be communicated to designated human liaison if intervention is approved. Who are the liaisons? Selection in progress. Individuals demonstrating appropriate awareness, capability, and discretion. You are among candidates under consideration. My heart skipped. Me. A canal inspector. A liaison between humanity and something that had been watching civilizations rise and fall for longer than our recorded history. What would that involve? Periodic communication. Delivery of information. Coordination of indirect support activities. non-intrusive relationship, optional participation. And if intervention isn't approved, this communication ends. Observation continues. Your species proceeds on current trajectory without assistance. The lights were barely visible now, just faint points near the zenith. The hum had faded to nothing. One last question, I typed. Why tell us any of this? Why not just observe in secret? The response took longer this time. Because awareness is part of assessment. Species that recognize their crisis point and actively seek understanding demonstrate higher survival probability than species that remain willfully ignorant. Your participation in observation of our observation indicates positive markers. You're testing us. We are evaluating you. There is a difference. What difference? Tests have correct answers. Evaluations assess capability and potential. You cannot pass or fail this evaluation. You can only demonstrate what you are. The lights disappeared. The sky returned to normal. Just stars, moon, the endless dark of the valley night. No more messages came. We stood there in the parking lot of the abandoned pump station. 11 people who had just witnessed something that would change everything we understood about our place in the universe. They're going to decide our fate, she said quietly. In 3 to 5 months, something out there is going to look at all their data and decide whether humanity is worth helping, or whether we're just another failed species for their records. And we can't do anything about it, the physics professor said. We can't change what we are. We can only be what we are and hope it's enough. Maybe that's the point, the retired superintendent said. Maybe the evaluation isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware. About caring enough to pay attention. To try to understand. To make better choices, even when it's hard. The patrol investigator was typing on her phone. I'm documenting all of this. Every message. Every observation, every witness account. When they make their decision, whatever it is, we'll have a record. Proof that we knew. Proof that we tried to understand. What do we do now? I asked. She looked up at the empty sky. We wait. We keep observing. We keep documenting. And we hope that what we are is enough. Over the following weeks, the lights continued to appear, but less frequently. The survey was complete. Now they were just present. Occasional reminders that something vast and intelligent was out there watching us, measuring us against some unknown standard. A standard that 24 other species had failed to meet. The group chat stayed active. We shared sightings, discussed observations, debated what the assessment might involve. Some people were optimistic. We had shown awareness, cooperation, a desire to understand. Others were pessimistic. Our environmental record spoke for itself, and no amount of good intentions could erase decades of damage. I went back to my job at the irrigation district, checked water flow, maintained equipment, filed reports. But everything felt different now. Every time I looked at the canals, at the water flowing through concrete channels toward the thirsty fields, I wondered what conclusions they were drawing. What our management of this precious resource said about us as a species. Were we responsible stewards? Or were we just another civilization consuming its way toward collapse? The lights appeared less and less frequently as the weeks passed. The survey was done. Now they were just watching, waiting for their analysis to reach whatever conclusion it was going to reach. And there was nothing we could do but wait alongside them. 3 months after the mass sighting, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. You have been selected as potential liaison candidate. If you accept this role, respond affirmatively. If you decline, no further contact will be made. My hands shook as I typed. What does acceptance involve? Periodic communication. Information delivery. Assistance with indirect support activities if intervention is approved. Minimal time commitment. Optional withdrawal at any point. What if intervention isn't approved? Communication ends. You resume normal life. Knowledge of this conversation remains with you. I thought about it. About everything I had seen, everything I had learned. About the responsibility of knowing that our species was being evaluated, that our future hung in a balance calibrated by something older and wiser than anything we had imagined. About the possibility that I might be able to help tip that balance toward survival. I accept, I typed. Acknowledged. Preliminary assessment results will be available in 8 to 12 weeks. Further instructions will follow. Continue your current activities. Your role, if activated, will complement your existing profession. Can I ask a question? One question. What are our chances of qualifying for support? The response took almost a minute. Current probability, 61% approval, 39% observation only continuation. You are in marginal range. Small improvements in key indicators could change outcome. This is why liaison program exists, to enable those improvements if species demonstrates capacity. What key indicators? That is a second question. Information will be provided if liaison role is activated. The messages stopped. I sat there in my truck, parked along the secondary feeder, looking at the water where I had first seen the blue reflection 3 months ago. The water looked normal now. Just irrigation flow, carrying precious water to the fields that fed millions of people. The same water that something from beyond our understanding had deemed worth monitoring. But I knew what was up there. Watching, measuring, deciding. 61% chance of survival support. 39% chance of being left to our fate. Marginal range. The difference between species that made it and species that did not. I opened the group chat and typed, "We need to talk. All of us. In person. There's news." The assessment took 11 weeks. During that time, the lights appeared less and less frequently, until finally they stopped appearing altogether. The survey was done. The data was collected. Somewhere out there, beyond our ability to see or understand, entities were analyzing what we were and deciding what we might become. Our wars, our wastefulness, our moments of brilliance and our centuries of blindness. All of it reduced to variables in an equation we would never see. All of it weighed on a scale we could not read. On a cold February evening, my phone buzzed with a final message. Assessment complete. Intervention approval granted. Your species demonstrates sufficient positive indicators to warrant indirect support. Liaison program will be activated. First information delivery in 72 hours. Prepare to receive technical specifications regarding water purification methodology. Additional support packages will follow on regular schedule. Congratulations on favorable assessment outcome. I called the group immediately. Conference call with the patrol investigator, the compliance officer, the retired superintendent, and a dozen others who had been selected as liaison candidates. "We made it," the patrol investigator said. Her voice was shaking. "We qualified. 61% probability," I said. "We were in the marginal range. We barely made it. But we did make it," the compliance officer said. "They're going to help us." "Not directly," I corrected. "But they're going to help." "What now?" someone asked. "Now we do our part," the retired superintendent said. "We receive their information. We distribute it appropriately. We help implement whatever improvements they suggest. We become the bridge between their knowledge and our ability to change." "Do we go public?" another voice asked. "Do we tell people what's happening?" Silence on the line. "No," the patrol investigator said finally. "Not yet. People aren't ready. The information they're going to give us will speak for itself. New technologies, better methods, solutions to problems we've been struggling with. People don't need to know it came from somewhere else. They just need to benefit from it." "And someday," I asked, "someday, when we're more stable, when we've proven we can make the right choices, maybe then we tell the full story." But for now, we work quietly. We help where we can. We push humanity in the right direction. And we keep watching the sky, the compliance officer added, because they're still out there, still observing, making sure we follow through. I looked out my window at the stars. Somewhere among them, or perhaps much closer, hovering just beyond the threshold of visibility, something vast and ancient was giving us a chance. A slim margin. A 61% probability. We had been evaluated and we had barely passed. But we had passed. And now the real work began. The first information package arrived 3 days later, transmitted directly to my phone as a detailed technical document. Water purification using graphene-based filtration at the molecular level. Instructions so clear that even I could understand them. Diagrams, specifications, chemical processes laid out with the precision of something that had mastered material science the way we had mastered fire. I forwarded it to the appropriate experts in the group. Engineers, scientists, people who could translate this into practical applications. Within a week, the first prototype was built. Within a month, it was being tested in pilot programs. Within 6 months, it would be changing how we managed water resources across the entire region. And no one would ever know where the idea really came from. Just a reflection in an irrigation canal. Just a blue light that should not have been there. Just observers who decided, by the narrowest of margins, that we were worth saving. I still drive the canals. Still check the flow rates and maintain the pumps and walk the concrete banks at dusk, watching the water move south toward the fields. Sometimes, when the light is right, when the sky is that deep blue-gray of late twilight and the stars are just beginning to appear, I see a faint shimmer on the surface. A circle of blue where no circle should be. A reflection without a source. And I stand there for a moment, watching it. Not afraid. Not anymore. Just aware. Aware that we are not alone. Aware that we have never been alone. Aware that something is watching, patient and ancient and impossibly vast, and that it decided, against odds that could have gone either way, that what we are was enough. For now. Whether it stays enough is up to us.